Ladies and gentlemen, you are not seeing things. I am back for more. It's been a common sight, yes, I know, for the past 3 months on Sportswire Radio, but I got good reason because I got two of my favorites here. Two of my favorites the past few months on Sportswire Radio, and you've been wondering, where have they been? But they're going to tell us where they've been and some. And I think it's a pretty cool story. Might even talk some other things you might be surprised about, and we're going to talk about where they've been, where they're going to go, and everything else in between, especially after what you saw with the fallout of WWE Raw. And I promise you, everybody might be chanting, we want Cody, but we want Shane and we want Allen. I'm going to get right to them here because they were two of my favorites at the end of 2023. We want to give them that welcome introduction that everybody else has gotten here on Sportswire Radio. And they've got it many times. I don't think I might have a voice, but you know what? I got to do it anyway because I'm going to go to my grave doing those intros, and everybody wants them at this point. So let's get right to it. So with that, wait for it. Further ado here on the Sports Report. The number one global sports show. Two of my favorites, up and coming pro wrestling stars. We call one of them Alan Worthy and the Southern Bulldozer Shane Davidson. Gentlemen, long time no speak.
I know it's been a crazy couple months for the both of us. You know, it's been wild.
Man, it's been a hell of a ride. I can tell you that, man.
Hopefully, it was a less bumpier ride than my intro just now.
I'm gonna tell you this.
Nah, man, it's had its bumps, man. It's had its twists and curves, dude. It feels like a fever dream, to be honest.
Yeah,
Really?
honestly.
Fever Dream. Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson. Fever Dream. I haven't heard that one before. I mean, what made you come up with that term before we formally say hello to you guys?
We'll have to dig deeper into it.
Oh, God.
It's a long story.
Okay, well, I'm sure people want to say things to you and more, but obviously, Alan and Shane, Happy New Year, though New Year's kind of passed weeks ago, but it's been a while since we last saw you guys. As a matter of fact, we actually last had you on right before 2024 was about to start. We had you on literally 2023 when a show. I literally thought I was going to die on you. I think I spoke for like 4 hours. You guys were on like the first 20 minutes. You're like, you know what? All right, this is going to go on all day, forever and ever. Let me move on. We'll come back another time. And I don't blame you because honestly, it took me like 3 days to recover my voice. And then right afterwards, I went on the air anyway twice the next day. So that's here nor there. Gentlemen, it's certainly a pleasure to be with you once again. But for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, and those that are out there fans of yours, Shane Davidson, the Southern Bulldozer, actually, it's funny because I just saw you on my screen not too long ago for one of our favorite up-and-coming, long-time established indie companies, the Southern Wrestling Federation. You were in the ring less than 2 weeks ago against Demko Graves, and for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, let's talk about what happened and where do we go from here? Because you're going to see you out there in the ring for us. You're going to be here in the ring coming up this Sunday. So let's talk about it for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio.
Well, first time, let me correct you real quick. It's this Friday.
Okay, I had February. That's a good point. You know what? It is Friday. That's right. You know what? I got my dates mixed up. Sorry about that.
No, you're good. But no, I'm facing Tyler Thorne this Friday.
Yes.
Don't know.
I
much
thought you
about
looked
him.
like him at first when you did your promo about the match. I was like, wait a minute, didn't I just see Tyler? And then you came out and it was like, wait, am I seeing double?
Man, I don't know, man. I don't know the guy, and he's already coming at me sideways. So anyway, but let's talk about Demko Graves.
D'Amico, I knew I was going to butcher that one.
Yeah. Let's talk about him for a second. Well, my return back to SWF, I went up against D'Amico Graves in a one-on-one 15-minute time limit, typical. Um, I don't know, man. I guess he just got the upper hand on me. I took the L, took a fat L on that. You know, he hit me with the pounce.
Not a Fat J. You didn't get a Fat J.
No.
But would have been a better option though.
I mean, I got something similar, but I digress.
though. But D'Amico Graves, you're in the ring with him. You're back in SWF. It's certainly a place that you've been in the past. And how do we kind of build from what happened and to kind of get back on track? And we expect a lot of big things from you now that you're back in SWF. And Tyler Thorne here is this Friday. And how do we kind of, roll off what happened and kind of use this Friday as a springboard for bigger and better things, my friend?
Yeah. Well, after D'Amico, I don't know if you caught this, but I faced the SWF World Heavyweight Champion Chaos the week after D'Amico.
Okay.
So took a fat L on that.
I wouldn't say fat L. It was close.
It was close. It was close. I hit him with caution zone. I put him in the caution zone. But overall, man, he got the better end of me. He worked the hell out of my leg. My knee's still sore from that match, man.
I want to ask you a question on that. You're in the ring and you hadn't been in the ring for a while. Obviously, there's a little bit of ring rust in the fact that it's been almost 2 months, I think, since you've actually been in a ring. And now you're going out there. You're going to have 3 matches, right, in 3 weeks in a row. So 3 consecutive weekends, or basically extended weekends, you're in the ring. So how do you kind of adjust yourself to going before you kind of had a hiatus? And even when you were in the ring in another company with 3 initials, where you were wrestling, maybe somewhat not as frequently, but sort of when you were there wrestling, but to where now you're going in and wrestling every weekend. How do you prepare your body to kind of adjust to that?
Just a lot of rest, a lot of ibuprofen, and a lot of Epsom salt baths, man.
I've had Epsom salt baths in the past.
Oh, they're beautiful. Oh my God, they're glorious.
Okay, well, that's certainly going to help us a little bit. But I mean, is the training different? Is there anything from that aspect?
The training is a hell of a lot different than what the other whatever it's called.
Yes.
The 3 initials. Yeah. Other than that, it's a hell of a lot different. It's a lot more intense.
We train every Sunday.
Every Sunday we're in the ring. Every Friday we're in the ring. So it's just
getting better each and every week.
Getting better, getting my fan base up, I'm popping off right now, man. The thing is, Shane, the world will know the name Shane Davidson at the end of.
Well, I think we've known you a little bit here at Sportzwire. We were just starting to get to know you in that other place, but we'll come back to you. Obviously, Alan, I hope we'll be worthy enough to be able to speak with you once again. So, it was funny. I mean, so what can we expect from you going forward? About now you're training at SWF, and what do you expect to accomplish there?
You see, just last week I was just a security guard, just doing security for SWF, and then D'Amico Graves attacked me. He attacked someone who wasn't trained and he wasn't, suited to me in the match. I mean, I was in a hoodie and sweatpants. I had Sperry's on. I don't know any wrestler that had Sperry's wrestling in the ring. I mean, that was the craziest thing. But, when your time comes, you got to show up and show out. And the main thing I'm looking forward to with SWF is to just get better, learn from the veterans that are in the company, train. I get to learn from one of the best in Shane Morton. You owner
of the company.
He's I would say he's second in charge. The owner is Yukon Jack, and to get to learn from him as well. Two legends in the Southern wrestling area. It's a great environment to be in. Everyone there is really helpful, and except some of the bad guys. Miko.
You're excused.
Oh, I had a cough. You
It's
know,
that time of year. Understood. It's okay.
everyone there is great, and I just can't wait to continue my training and to, get my get back at D'Amico because he knows it's coming.
What's it like now being back in SWF? You guys obviously had some experience there, and there was a detour, and obviously those are things that happen. And do you feel now that you're where you want to be, and eventually, now that you're here in SWF and getting that training, and certainly, you think about Shane Morton, obviously Gypsy Joe Arena, and certainly the history that Southern independent wrestling has, especially, in the state of Tennessee. And I was wondering what do you, in terms of how do you expect to be where you want to be? Is SWF helping you get there, Alan?
Oh, absolutely. And the best thing about being in SWF and being in the Southern independent wrestling circuit is the fans. The fans, man, they die hard love you or they die hard hate you. There's no in between, man. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. Like the things that were said to D'Amico after the match that we had was really intense, and the fans really make it for me. Getting to be in front of a crowd and to get them behind you, man. And the thing is, they may know you outside of the ring, but when you're in that ring, a lot of them respect you as the wrestler that you are. And not a lot of towns can say that, but the area we are in are diehard wrestling fans, and a lot of
Kind of
them.
like the old school days in the territories, kind of
Oh
when you
yeah, I
world
mean,
class, and if we think about the NWA Mid South. I mean, where you guys are in Tennessee and Tullahoma and those surrounding areas, that's like the hotbed for what pro wrestling really was in a different time back in the 70s and back in these, kind of like if we watched the movie that recently came out, Iron Crawl. I mean, seeing that movie and kind of the Von Erichs, and you guys are kind of living that now in 2024, almost that whole kind of like seeing it. There's still a lot of remnants left in the South where you
oh
guys
yeah,
are.
especially where we are. We get trained in an old style way, but we also have the new school way.
That we all
I
that yeah that we already know the new school way. Now we're getting trained like old school now.
How does
the
that help
old
you
school.
guys in the crowd reaction? Obviously we saw you in a company with three initials, but you don't necessarily, and that's no knock, you're not in a crowd environment. But now you're going into like the hotbed of independent wrestling in the old days of the territories. So how are you changing your approach, or what are you learning from that now, making that total adjustment where we just saw you not too long ago in front of more of a taped audience into now with really kind of everything's taped and edited, and it's that's great. But now you're going into like, okay, it's live, lights, camera, action. Like, how are you guys going about that in the adjustment?
Oh man, the crowd will let you know. That's the best thing about it. The crowd will let you know if you're doing a good job or not. Because
Oh
if you're
yes.
not doing a good job, they'll be silent or they'll simply scream out, "You suck." So it's no. I've heard people in the crowd talk about some of the matches, and they'll voice their opinion, and that's the best thing about it is you get that live initial reaction to what you're doing. And
Yeah,
the
But that's
thing
good
is,
sometimes,
live
though. But that's
initial.
oh,
good, though. Sometimes you go okay, and you watch a show, and you're not having that audience, and you kind of have to kind of think, well, you might message me, what did you think of my match? But you can actually have people who paid a ticket and basically tell you whether they liked you or you didn't. I find that so fascinating that you guys have gone and made that adjustment now from where you were, and you guys were obviously a big part of where you were in the other company, but now going into SWF, and again, a hotbed of pro wrestling, and now you're getting an audience that's telling you whether they like you or not. I mean, whether you're worthy or whether you're a bulldozer.
oh yeah, it was. The thing is, it wasn't that big of an adjustment because I've always kind of been someone who panders to a crowd, and
But
that's
you were a
really.
trendsetter. You were always staying trendy. You were always trying to keep up with the times. Where Shane Davidson was a bulldozer. He was a big man, a big bad man that would want to give his onslaught and give his punishment, and basically tell you so much with his words, but basically tell you with his fist. Yeah. Okay. Well,
Shit.
I'm gonna say hello to some people here because first of all, we'll let you hang on to that thought. I know you're in a live setting. I want to say hello to the Drip King, Adonis Felios. How you doing out there, Adonis? I want to say hello to Jules NYC, who's a little under the weather and probably shouldn't be here, trying to maybe recover from some of the things she's under the weather for. But I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much there. She's all the way out there in New York City. How you guys doing? We're doing great. Thank you for tuning in, Jules. Want to say hello to my new recent buddy who's from Twitch out there, sir. Thanks a lot, 9,000. Has anyone mentioned that I look like John Travolta with a beard? Yeah, I've gotten that a lot. I used to get it a lot more when I didn't have a beard. And I used to get that a lot because also I actually, grew up not too far for the movie Saturday Night Fever was shot. So I used to get that all the time. I don't get it as much now because, you see me on Sportswire. But, sir, thanks a lot. I definitely want you to stay tuned because I am going to talk some WWE, actually. We're going to talk some WWE. We're going to talk about Raw. We're going to talk about Cody, this press conference. So if you want to hang out tonight, sir, so thanks a lot. You'll actually be in luck that we're going to talk some pro wrestling for you. So you might be in luck, and I hope everybody else stays tuned. Also, I think this might be a cousin of one of you individuals. You can pick a coin who is, but I think we know. Yeah, we knew that. And thank you for tuning in, Brian. If you're on YouTube now, give us a sub. We're at Sportswire Radio 6579, and I might actually have an announcement about your cousin that I might want to bestow something on him at the end of the show. So that's why you might want to hang out with us tonight because it might be a special night, one for the ages. So you certainly might want to tune in because I promise you, your cousin's not going to want to bulldoze me after I might give an announcement to bestow on him. So you might want to stay tuned there. Cheap plug, right? That was a good, fun way to kind of let people tune in. And yes, thank you, Jules. And Jules likes the big guys, so that's why she likes you guys tonight. But I know, obviously, you're obviously taking, but that's the good news for you. But Alan, yeah, you're taking. But Alan, certainly, you maybe those staying trendy shows, and maybe catch Jules' attention. But enough about who loves you and who doesn't, and who else wants to talk about WWE. I'll come back to that. But let me ask you guys a formal question. Now that you're back in the SWF, what are your goals individually in 2024?
Well, I'm going to start that off real fast. My goal being back in the SWF is just gaining the experience. Being a part of this has really changed my mindset on a lot of things. And I'm wanting to be taken more serious than I was with that other place that I was at.
I feel like we're back in WWF and WCW days where it's we can't mention that other place, and I feel like we're back in WWF, WCW.
Well, I'm trying to erase it from my past completely, man. Because I going into 2024, man. I went in with the mindset if you hate me, oh well, you're gonna see more of me.
So you're kind of motivated then in achieving those individual goals because you kind of want to rectify things that maybe you felt didn't go in your favor, more or less. Is that a fair statement?
Oh, and I also wanted to mention that coming up on February 30th.
20. Well, there's no 30 days in February. It's 29 in February.
Oh shoot!
You gotta remember, it's a leap year. I want to make sure
we're in a leap year this year.
29 days only in February.
Well, if it was the 30th,
March 1st, that'd be March 1st.
March 1st, yeah. I will have officially been in the Indies for a whole year.
Congratulations. What does that mean to you?
It means a lot because it's something that I finally have committed to.
Do you have regrets?
Yeah.
What do you regret?
I'm going to shoot here for a second, Tom. I regret going back to TBW.
Why is that?
It almost ruined my wrestling career. It almost tore me to shreds. I've lost friends because of it. I feel like I've betrayed people because of it, and it's just it was a feeling that didn't set well with me, and I almost got blackballed from it. So.
I will say we had a sort of wrestler now. I can't say he's fully a wrestler, but his name is DVG, and he's in our Hall of Fame, and he does some, I guess, backyard underground wrestling, and he basically said on air that he's no longer going to work for a couple of feds. And the reason that is because he's trying the route, like you and obviously Alan, in being independent pro wrestlers. And to wrestle, let's say, outside of that could certainly hurt your credibility or recognition in the independents. So if you're going to go on the path of the independents, irregardless of what I think or irregardless of your experiences, and anyway, you could have had the greatest experiences in TBW, you could have been the world champion, but the facts are, if you're going to go the route that you're going now, you ultimately had to make the move of going full force into going into the independents and coming back to the SWF. So obviously, we want to wish you very well with that. And I'm happy that you're here talking about the SWF. But for you, Alan Worthy, what are some of your worthy goals in 2024? I kind of like the new name, by the way. I think you should keep it. It's
Oh
worthy.
yeah, for sure. My goals this year is to just continue to get better and to learn. There's a lot of things I have to work on in ring, and some of those flaws were able to be covered up, in the prior matches that I've had, but being in the live setting and stuff, there's multiple things I need to clean up on. And I think I've gotten to a point now where I've cleaned up on a lot and I've learned a lot. But the greatest thing about wrestling is, you're never fully done learning ever.
No, never.
I mean, you can be
Never.
50 years old and still learn something new.
I always say wrestling's an apprenticeship. All the years I've been on Sportswire covering wrestling, it's over 3 years, I've always used the term wrestling is like an apprenticeship.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, we've got some great guys around us that, have been some of the best people. And, they've looked past all of the issues that we've had with, being in the backyard. But that did set us back tremendously, and to this day, we still kind of get a little bit of flack for it.
Why?
Oh,
Why do you get
yeah.
flack?
Well, you have to think about it like this, and
Well, I know the answer, but I want the
Yeah.
audience to hear. I know the answer because I have a motto called "All Wrestling Matters." So I actually, if I shoot, I'm going to shoot after you. So
Yeah.
you can go ahead first, though.
So one of the wrestlers that we trained with, who's been a veteran for years, told us the exact reason why. They're getting an audience off of something that's not actually wrestling. We spent money, time, we've put the work in, we've paid our dues, and imagine you're an NFL player who is making not the greatest amount of money. You spent your whole life playing football, you trained, you worked your ass off, and then somebody who came in doesn't know anything about football goes and plays flag football and it gets paid more than you or gets more recognition than you. I mean,
understand. The only thing I would say, and I agree with you. Now, I always say that people should trans. We're here with Alan Worthy and the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. I want everybody to follow these guys because these guys are great friends. I'm going to have an announcement that these guys might want to certainly tune in for at the end of the show, which I know they're going to have to say because they're going to have to tune. Of course, they're going to have to tune. They're going to have to stay here in the show. But, I always do look at it. Now, I agree. Everybody should go out and train. But there is sometimes that companies that you may want to call underground, semi-pro, backyard, they do a far better job than marketing themselves sometimes than the disgruntled. And now I'm not saying SWF is that case, but there's a lot of guys who are in the independents, quote unquote, who really are kind of past their expiration dates and they're kind of past their prime. And they kind of like look down on like the undergrounders, the backyarders, the semi-pro guys when for themselves and their companies, they tend to draw very little traction. Now, SWF, we certainly respect. So I want to say this in loving support of you guys. But I do think sometimes it's unfair that the backyard guys get the criticism. And I'm not surprised. I knew the answer why you guys got flack. But I think sometimes it's unfortunate that the pro guys look down on the yarders and the undergrounders, because I do think the undergrounders and the yarders have done a great job in establishing themselves with massive followings, and they do a great job in talking about a sport and keeping it alive that we all love. And but I understand where you guys are coming from, and I obviously support you guys going out and training, but not SWF in general. But I do think in general there's an unfortunate kind of thing where independent guys or pro guys who, again, are past their expiration. In fact, not you guys personally, but some guys that have come on Sportswire. No, it's okay. I got this. Some guys that come on Sportswire who, quote unquote, the pro wrestlers and independent wrestlers who really probably should go sit and play WWE 2K. They might be better wrestlers at that than what I've seen in the ring from them. But in general, there are certainly those that I think that have an attitude that, maybe they should certainly, look in the mirror. But I would certainly support you guys going and being pro wrestlers because that's what you want to do. So on paper and on theory, I love what you guys are doing. But I do think sometimes that SWF, that our yarders and background, but from the background side of it and the underground guys get an unfair criticism.
Sometimes I would say, but you have to also think about the safety aspect.
Oh,
and
for sure.
also
I understand that.
the aspect of protecting what we do, because I'm not throwing shots at anybody in the backyard, but there is sometimes you will watch a match.
Oh, I know.
And
I
it
know
will be some absolute dog crap.
Oh, I know. Listen, trust me. I watch a lot of wrestling, right? I watch too much wrestling, right? I mean, I'm sure people ask me, well, what do you do these days? I said, honestly, I watch wrestling matches. I watch pretty much all types of wrestling. So, yeah, you can definitely tell when there's a guy that can't, sell a move, or a guy that, can't punch correctly, or a guy who, can't do a suplex, or, doesn't know how to be able to sell for his opponent. Sure. I agree with you on there's definitely stuff in the underground, or more so in the yard, where you see it's clear as day that, somebody's in there and, it's just not very good.
It's just mainly the safety, and in all honesty, it's mainly the safety part of it, because a lot of kids watch these backyard shows, and it's you want to teach them the right way to do things. If they're going to do it, you want to show them the right way, and also you don't want people recreating it at home. That's the main issue is,
sure,
a lot of these backyard guys, if they go and get hurt, it's on them. The medical bills are on them versus if you're professionally trained, you know what you're going into.
Absolutely. I always say it. We had James Barris on, who's the owner of Cutlery Championship Wrestling in the UK, and we were talking about this on the air on Friday's show with the guy Brad Coleman. He was in our chat, and Mr. Barris said, well, he loves the backyard. He certainly would encourage wrestlers to go out and train. So I certainly do agree, and I want to say it. I love all wrestling. But I do think if you can train, obviously go out there and train.
100%. If you want to do backyard wrestling and you don't want to take wrestling seriously, but you think of it as a hobby, I would still recommend for everyone to go out and get trained for safety purposes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Listen, I would always go out and, do something to help yourself, because you also want to help the other person. I agree with that. So what are you eating, by the way, first of all?
I'm eating a strawberry outshine popsicle.
Wow, I haven't had a popsicle since I don't know when, but that definitely looks good. And my voice is always so dry these days. I could probably use like 14 of those, and I'd still have maybe a dry voice. But I'm glad that you're enjoying it. Maybe I'll let you enjoy it a little further and come back to you. But I do want to say hello. It's fun. I'm trying to make you laugh. It's okay. I'm going to come back to you. Don't worry. I do want to say hello to my buddy Ethan Sorensen. How's everything going today? Ethan, I'm doing great. I mean, I just spoke with before the man that played the NCAA Final Four, who's in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Danny Burns, with a number of his teammates. You were on the show, Ethan, and I'm here right now with two of my favorite guys who are in the SWF, the Southern Wrestling Federation. You can follow them on Facebook. Their name is Alan Worthy. I hope we're as worthy to have him on as certainly what he does in the ring. And also the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson, who was bulldozing that strawberry popsicle. So if you want to follow these guys, I would encourage you to do so. I am working on my stand-up comedy because, I do such a bad job these days on Sportswire. Maybe I can have a second career in stand-up comedy. But if you want to follow these guys like I do, check them out a number of different ways. First of all, YouTube, Threads, Instagram, Twitch. Ignore the name Mikaels. It's still there, but I'm sure he'll change it if he wants to. But it's Alan Mikaels on those threads. Also, Shane Davidson, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Armageddon_Shane Davidson. Facebook, just Shane Davidson. Check out these guys also on Facebook, Southern Wrestling Federation. Check them out. I highly encourage you to do so. They've got a lot of stuff up there from some current events, and they're obviously a well-known, established, respected wrestling company out there. And I would love to obviously talk about this company here on Sportswire Radio, certainly more often in the future. We always love to talk with all wrestling companies because our motto is all wrestling matters. So we want to certainly make sure we continue that thread here. And if you like us on Sportswire Radio, there's easily many ways you can support us now. First of all, check us out on YouTube as before I almost choke. We're at Sportswire Radio 6579 Backspace Streams. We just passed over 500 subscribers not too long ago, and people are subscribing left and right. So join us. Yep, 524 to be exact. 300 and I think it's like 55 in the last 8 months. In the last 3, it's 125 alone. So I really want to thank people for going out there and hitting those sub buttons and sharing the world. We got almost 10,000 views on YouTube alone in the last 3 months. So thank you so much to everybody continuing to support us. Yep. We're also on sportswireradio.org. And if you have an internet radio station, you have a podcast out there, you want live music to be played, anything else, you can let us know, and free of charge, I give you the opportunity to have your podcast heard. You want to be a DJ? I give you that opportunity as well. I do it on behalf of the community to give people a chance to make themselves heard, and you can do that here and through us. And also, we have a blog here. We're on Tumblr at Sportswire Radio. I'm going to be back here tomorrow night and the same time, same channel to be inducted in our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. We're going to have none other than a team of Dark Kron and Matthew Forsaken from Dark Cryptic Wrestling, DKW. They are also here a part of the foundation. They're going to talk about their own live show coming up on February the 17th at the IMF's King of the Center show, and I have no doubt these guys will be a huge part of it, so you want to tune in for the ceremony, stay for the fun, and that'll be at 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll be inducting into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame a little after 11 o'clock Eastern Time from DKW. Matthew Forsaken and Dark Kron. Also, I'll be back here 4 o'clock earlier in the day with Dane Johnson. Dane Johnson, interesting guy, local guy from Long Island, actually was a marathon runner, climbed places like Mount Everest, Antarctica, and he's got an interesting background. He's also climbed a number of different mountains in different countries, and he's going to talk about his story. So if you want something different, if you're bored of me talking about the greatest hits of your other wrestling company or two, or if you're tired of We Want Cody, you can definitely tune into us, and it'll be at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. But until then, we are hoping to be worthy enough to stay with Alan Worthy and the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson. These guys have made their long-awaited return to Sportswire Radio, and let's go. You know what? I want to break from the SWF talk. I have some people here, and you told me off the air you wanted to talk WWE. So let's have some fun for a little bit. We'll come back into the nitty-gritty. So everybody's talking right now in the world of WWE about Cody Rhodes and The Rock. The Rock returns, and we think, is it going to be The Rock versus Roman? What about Cody? Drew McIntyre comes out there and even acknowledges it. If you're on Twitter, X, whatever it is, Ricochet even mentioned in a tweet, we want Cody. So I have to ask you guys, now that we're basically in almost the home stretch of WrestleMania season, what do you see here on the men's side, the women's side, and everything else in between? And what are some of your predictions, gentlemen?
All right, so I got 2 predictions, if you don't mind me spilling.
I'll give you 10. Listen, you're on Sportswire. I'll give you 10.
My first prediction.
Okay.
It's going to be The Rock versus Roman. Roman Reigns goes over to finish it, to complete it, to fulfill his legacy in the bloodline.
Okay.
It's going to be it can either be Cody and Seth, or it could be Cody, CM Punk, and Seth.
You sure? You watched Raw tonight, though, with CM Punk?
I did not watch Raw tonight.
Well, they showed him basically getting his surgery and showing him in a hospital. But now we had one of our guys, you probably heard of him, TBK. He interviewed Josh Allen, the boss of your former promotion. And he was on here Friday night in a chat saying, well, CM Punk, he could very well be, a staged injury. But from what I saw tonight on Raw, I don't think it's a staged injury. I think CM Punk is out of action. So that's going to maybe take away some of your prediction there. So you might want to revisit that.
Well, here's the thing. With our advanced technology, CM Punk can come back by WrestleMania.
He's old, dude. He's old.
I was going to say he's like 45. I mean, he's pushing it.
But like, that's just a prediction, though.
Okay.
And the thing is, in that prediction, Cody Rhodes still completes the story.
Okay, but don't you think now this is not my opinion. I don't know where I fall on this yet, but Cody finishing the story and beating either Seth Rollins or CM Punk, is that the same as it would have been if he would have won against Roman Reigns and finally pinned Roman?
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Okay.
This is my second prediction.
Okay.
It's okay for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is my prediction. It's either going to be Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre for the World Heavyweight title, and Drew goes over.
I have been thinking about that. and they're still putting him right there. But if you believe what the internet says, and Drew McIntyre has a contract expiring, and I don't recall a time in recent memory, or especially since Bret the Hitman Hart was the then WWF champion with a contract that was basically ripped up, and he was obviously going to leave the WWF for WCW, that a champion would be holding a belt, a major title, with a contract that could be not renewed. That's my only concern about Drew. I mean, yeah. Any thought on that before I get to Mr. Worthy? Any thoughts to you? Sure, you think Drew could win the title?
I mean, it's a big possibility, but they could also go with CM Punk on that one as well. It's just that story's unfinished. And
I don't know. I think a lot of people would say, and I'll get to Mr. Worthy in a second, but I just think that Cody winning off Seth Rollins or anybody else, whether it's Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, other than Roman Reigns, it may not be the same as Cody in the rematch against Roman, after he did specifically say, I was this close. I was the closest one to beat you, and I need to finish the story. And everything that Heyman said about the Rhodes family, and we've seen the back and forth where Cody and Roman, it almost feels like mano a mano. This is the moment. So I don't know. I mean, listen, what do I know? It's your prediction.
That's where I was getting with my second prediction of.
Okay.
So it's the Friday Night SmackDown before Mania.
Yep.
There's a contract signing.
Okay. I'm following.
It's The Rock comes out, Roman comes out, Roman signs the contract just to be cocky and arrogant. The Rock then takes it, signs it, grabs the microphone and says, you didn't read the fine print. Cody Rhodes' theme song hits. Here comes Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes then goes up, signs the contract.
Oh, God.
And then hear me out. Cody Rhodes then says, by the way, it's a special guest referee. It's a special guest referee match. The Rock is the special guest referee to give Cody Rhodes the fair opportunity to defeat Roman at Mania.
Interesting. I mean, that's certainly interesting. I have comments from Sir Thankful. I knew he would like this. Interesting. I'll come back to that. I mean, you have any other predictions before I get to Alan? Any other predictions you want to throw out there? No?
Well, with the women's division,
Rhea Ripley's the Raw champion. On the side, you have Io Sky and Bayley. I mean, Rhea Ripley, we still don't know who she may face at Mania. But what do you think on
I got a hunch on who she's gonna face at Mania. And I think
there's two obvious choices, but what say you?
My first choice is Bianca Belair.
Interesting. I would have actually went in a completely different direction. My direction would have been Becky Lynch.
That's a good one too.
Because on Raw last month they had a face-off, and they talked about, in a way, kind of unfinished business. Bianca Belair, I think, at least I would think, the logic would be to have her in a match with Jade Cargill.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, that would make sense too.
Because they had that little face-off in the Rumble, but they never touched each other.
So I have some comments. I'll come back to them in a second. But Mr. Worthy, you want to give us some trendy-like predictions?
Yes, and this is going to be a wild one, but I honestly think the possibility of it happening is kind of low, but I could see it being Roman versus Rock at Mania.
Okay.
Rock takes down Roman, but then Damian Priest cashes in on The Rock. So it takes the belt off The Rock, and Roman gets to have the belt taken off of him by a legend. But The Rock gets beat down after the match by Solo and Jimmy, setting up for SummerSlam, this year SummerSlam, for it to be
Tribal Combat.
Well, it was to be Roman, Jimmy, and Solo versus The Rock, Jay, and a special guest, not a special guest, but a mystery partner. And the mystery partner for the SummerSlam event would be Jacob Fatu.
I knew you were going with that because he's a free agent now.
He's a free agent.
I knew you were going with that because I actually watched MLW. Yeah. His wars with Alexander Hammerstone, and this kind of connects to us. We actually are friends with a guy, Vito Fratelli, who's in the PWI 500 this year. He wrestled Alexander Hammerstone twice when he was the MLW World Champion. Boy, I knew you were going to factor in a family member there, and that's what you did.
It's crazy because, like, the thing is, Damian Priest has been teasing this cash in on Seth for so long,
Goes the
just
other
for
way.
him to cash in on The Rock, because it takes the belt off The Rock, it takes the belt off Roman, and they both look strong, and it sets up for a SummerSlam event or even Mania next year. It could be because Triple H loves his long-term storytelling. He loves his long-term booking.
Well, I will tell you what. You know what? That was clever. You were certainly clever. Is there any other predictions that you have before I get to some of the peanut gallery?
I also think that it's going to be Cody and Seth, and I think that makes a lot more sense than Cody versus Roman, in my personal
But
opinion.
these 3-0 against Seth already. We're going to go back, and people are going to assume that Cody wins.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Well, we all know Cody's going to win because Seth is, he's going to come off a knee injury.
Right, the meniscus tear, yep.
But if you go back, yes, Roman and Seth were Dusty's kids. They were,
Yes, because of the Performance Center with the NXT and
but
then the
Seth,
Shield. Yep.
Seth was so much closer to Dusty than Roman was, and it honestly would make more sense. And not only that, I love watching Cody and Seth go at it. They have phenomenal chemistry.
They had those great matches they had. I think was the cage match was one of them, right?
The Hell in a Cell when Cody had the torn
match.
pec.
I was going to say that was the match. I think I was on the air even right after that match. I mean, yeah, okay, but you still don't think that it's not the same as Cody beating Roman finally?
Me personally, last year's Mania, me and Shane both were pretty upset that he didn't put the belt on Cody.
Oh my God, 80% of the world was upset, I think.
And at that point, after I saw it, I'm like, I don't think I could go through that again. So I hope he doesn't face Roman. Because the thing is, you never know what they're gonna do. I mean, if he faces Roman again, there's still potentially that Cody loses again.
But Thursday, this big press conference they've been hyping up, and now they were trying to. You could tell that WWE is playing into the social media, and they're saying, well, something I said actually on Friday's show. By the way, boy, somebody listened to me once again, where I said the Rock and Roman still have not said anything to each other, and they're basically saying now, well, we don't know now. Now we don't know, but meanwhile, Cody shook The Rock's hand, and it was assumed that when Cody said it's not yet, not my moment at Mania, that it was going to be Rock and Roman. We have this press conference Thursday that we think it seems now what we heard on Raw that now we're going to get the answer of who Cody goes up against. What do you make of that?
Well, the thing is he already said it's not going to be Roman. He already said it.
Yep.
So that's kind of set in stone. I mean, he could be potentially leading to what if Damian Priest cashes in on Seth Rollins, because there's still a possibility that Seth might not be able to go at Mania. So Seth might have to vacate the belt.
Fair point. That's a fair point. I think that's certainly a fair point.
If Seth vacates the belt, I personally would love to see a McIntyre Rhodes Mania match.
My only problem with McIntyre is if you buy into the fact he hasn't re-signed a contract. They never put a world title on a guy since the whole Bret Hart thing that they put a world title on a guy that could be leaving. Go back in the history books in WWE since that moment.
But that's the greatest thing about Drew being the champion is he would immediately drop it to Cody. So he would have his little reign, and then he would drop it to Cody at Mania.
That's if he's leaving. Obviously, he could still stay, but it's still, to me, bizarre.
But we can also see, there's a potential that Gunther might win the title, and we see Cody and Gunther at Mania.
Well, if you believed what you saw, and I'm going to get to comments in a second, but if you believed on Raw, where Gunther basically talked about 600 days, and it's almost like, we saw, yes, Jey Uso came out, but they could have that match for the IC title at Chamber, and Jey could win the title because they talked about the fact Jey never having a singles run, and they talked about his tag team run versus kind of what we've seen with Gunther. So it would make sense to me that Gunther maybe drops the title finally, because Gunther even said, what more can I accomplish, basically? What's left for me? So,
I would want to see Gunther drop the title at Elimination Chamber, personally. The only place I would see him drop the title is Mania, but I could also see him having the Ultimate Warrior type run where he held 2 titles.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. The Warrior, obviously, with Hogan, WrestleMania 6. I mean, Shawn Michaels was the European and the world champion at one time. I
He
think that
destroyed that belt. Shawn Michaels destroyed the European belt. That
I
was a
know.
tragedy.
I know. It was I always liked the European title, and then I think it was Kurt Angle was a double champion, but I don't think it was he World and Tag or World and IC at the same time. There have
I
been
think he was World and
instances.
Tag. Yeah,
Yeah, there
I
have been
know.
instances.
Miz at one point was
A tag in a world, right?
tag in a world, and then at one point he was US and tag, and
But to have a world title in like an IC or a US, it's very
Seth
few times.
Seth done it. I know Seth did it
Yeah.
with the US and the world
I was gonna
title.
say he did it in was it 2016? I want
It
to
was
say maybe?
he beat Cena. I know that he beat
Yeah,
Cena
like
for the US
20.
title
Yes, in the 20.
because of John fucking Stewart.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was SummerSlam. That was
Stupid.
SummerSlam in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I think that was 2016 or 17. One of those years. Somebody will quote me
Gotta
on it.
apologize for cursing, Michael.
Dude,
Well,
no,
you know,
I'm not
listen,
gonna
at this
apologize for
point-
that. Jonathan Stewart, that was so stupid. That
Well,
was so
WWE's
stupid.
had some. They've had some clunkers. Kevin Federline cost John Cena a match one year. I mean, there's been some clunkers. I got some comments here because people seem like they want to talk about this. Honestly, Tom, even though we'd want Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns, it's going to be a lot more interesting Roman to face his cousin, his bloodline member, The Rock. I mean, I think that from a mainstream buzz, The Rock does get more buzz than Cody, and the fact that The Rock hasn't had a match in 8 years, but a true match in 12 since Cena. I mean, there is something to that. I mean, certainly the internet wrestling crowd hates this match, and they've certainly made it vocally loud. And, but, the casual fan who WWE is going, remember, it's Endeavor and TKO. What are they known for? UFC, right? They're known for getting a crowd that's outside of their fan base. So they're trying, obviously, a gimmick to be able to get people who normally don't watch WWE regularly to go buy WrestleMania, or maybe go and buy Peacock or Netflix so they can go out and eventually take care of their network deal. Let this man cook. Let's go. Meaning, I think he's talking. We'll clarify who you're talking about. What about Nia Jax in terms of the women's side?
In my opinion, she's doing a great run right now. But see her face Rhea, I wouldn't personally want to see it, especially after Jade Cargill handled her in the Rumble. They kind of didn't bury Nia, but they definitely used
I think Nia. I mean, I know she's
Jade
got
over.
some big wins there, but I think to me, I would go Becky Lynch and Rhea Ripley. That would be the move I would go with. I mean, I know it's still to be determined, but I don't know. I think a family member of yours, the Bulldozer, says Roman ain't going to lose the belt. Well, nobody thinks he's going to lose the belt, to be fair, because he hasn't lost it in so long and business is up. So why make a change now?
Well, the thing is with that, Tom, Roman's got to lose the belt eventually, and
To who?
I'm gonna have to go on a whim and go with what Alan said about The Rock and Roman. The Rock going over on Roman. Because
You don't think though that The Rock shouldn't? I would say though The Rock hasn't been in the ring in really a decade, and should he go over Roman?
He shouldn't, but the thing is,
shouldn't, but it would make a lot of sense because it would put Roman in a. Because the way they're working with Roman is they're making him seem like he's just this beast of a human being.
Attraction, yep.
Yeah, so I feel like since The Rock is the older cousin, I feel like it would make a lot of sense to put Roman in his place.
in my personal opinion, there's only 3 people in this world that can take the belt off Roman right now. The Rock's one of them.
Yep.
Cody would be one of them. And one that's probably never going to happen, but would cause so much buzz would be Jon Moxley. If Mox made his WWE return, I think he would eventually end up taking the belt off Roman.
I
don't think, but whoa. You don't consider Gunther at all?
Well, he's on Raw. And for 2, they've had their opportunity to push Gunther for a world title reign, and they haven't.
But again, you mentioned Ultimate Warrior, right? The Ultimate Warrior was the IC champion and then worked his way to the world. We've seen this in the history of WWE before. John Cena was the US champ, went to the world title. Bret Hart was the IS champion, the IC champion, went to the world. The Rock himself was the IC champ, went to the world title. Kurt Angle was the IC and the European champion at the same time, went to the world title months later. I mean, the history books is littered with guys like this. I mean, so to me, Gunther, pound for pound, doesn't have to be now, but he could certainly take it off Roman down the road. I mean, there's always going to be a draft rebrand.
I just think it's too late for him to take the title over. I think his time frame is at the end, and they just haven't done enough with Gunther to make him. They haven't done enough storyline wise.
I think realistically, Cody or The Rock, you're absolutely right. To me, realistically, there's those two are the only two that have any shot or any prayer of taking the title off Roman, because it's obviously The Rock, and there's the family, and he's The Rock. And Cody is the one that basically he hasn't lost. He lost 2 singles matches since he's come back? Was it 2? Maybe
I think so.
I think it's 2. I know he lost another match other than the one with Roman. He lost at least 2 matches, but the point is very, very few matches. Let me come to a few people. I think that for the women, it could be Jade Cargill versus Becky Lynch versus Rhea for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. What do you think?
That could be really interesting.
That could work really well, especially since I think TNA and WWE are starting to partner together. Correct?
Yes. It's funny you said that because we saw Jordan Lynn Grace in the Rumble, and we see obviously Naomi is back on SmackDown. She was just the Impact Women's World Champion, and obviously WrestleMania 40 is coming in Philadelphia. And my first thought was, well, Tommy Dreamer is going to get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But yes, I believe it's either Endeavor or TKO has some type of share in Impact. So yeah, you could definitely see some, crossover now. Finally, yeah, I think you could. Yeah,
I would love to see more of Jordan Grace.
Oh my God, she's bigger than she's bigger than half the roster in the other company that combined. All of them combined, the company I used to work for.
She's something,
It's funny. She transformed. Remember a couple years ago? I remember watching her, and I look at her now, I'm like, how did that happen?
I'm hard work and determination,
Well, I mean, definitely, props to her is all I'm gonna say.
Hey, Tom, real quick.
Yes, sir.
I want to do a role reversal real quick with you. I want to ask you your opinion on Carmelo Hayes' heel turn this past Sunday.
Oh, I thought it was great because everybody was thinking, oh, Carmelo's the good guy, and we're gonna see him, and he's gonna go and venture off to his own. But they kind of pulled a swerve on you, more or less, kind of like a Swerve Strickland kind of swerve, more or less. So I thought,
I love Swerve.
Listen, another guy that I mean, how is he not a world champion? But I thought that the turn that they did and everything, the way they told that story, I thought was excellent. If they're gonna bring him to the main roster, or if that. You couldn't ask for anything better. So at the end of Vengeance, I thought that was great.
Oh man, yeah, Trick Williams too, man. That's the guy right there.
Yeah, he didn't win because Booker T wasn't there. Booker T was there, he would have won.
Well, so I was happy. Yeah, it was great. I thought it was great. I would love to see Carmelo Hayes jump onto the main roster. I mean, I would love to see that. What do you guys think? Well, speaking of that, conversely, what do you guys think of Braun Breaker on the main roster?
Oh, I love Braun Breaker. I think he has the best spear in wrestling right now.
Yep. I agree with that. Yeah. I agree with that.
He reminds me of everything good that Goldberg has, but 10 times better.
You can't listen, Goldberg. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Did he have more than 3 really good matches in his career? I mean, they were always basically Warrior. He was he'd come out, bang his head on the wall, do the running, he'd do his spear, do his jackhammer. And that was kind of really his ring ability. I mean, is anything else good from Goldberg? I mean, if you ask Bret Hart, he's the worst human being in the world. But,
I was just going to mention that,
because I just read an interview from Bret Hart. I think it was in Australia, and he was talking about Goldberg and how he was unsafe and usual stuff. But, yeah, Goldberg matches, I mean, I don't think, was there ever a great match I watched of Goldberg? I'm trying to think. In WWE, the match with Lesnar was terrible at Mania. The comeback he did, the match with Undertaker, he almost
that was dog.
Oh my God.
Well, the worst thing about Goldberg as well is he also came in during Triple H's reign of terror. So it was kind of hard for anybody to have a good match at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about the first time he came in. Yeah, I mean, it was weird because I don't think the fans were kind of into Goldberg at that moment, and it was 2 years too late. I mean, the time he came back, sure, there was a nice, cheap, attraction pop, but his ring ability. I mean, listen, I think there were guys that you worked with in another company with 3 initials that might have actually been better workers. That was a good one. That was a good one. No, seriously.
You brought up Braun Breaker. Let's talk
Good.
about for a moment his uncle. Big Papa Pump Scott.
I know him.
Love me some Scott Steiner promos.
You're a
Oh my God,
freaking
you guys ever went back and not to watch the one where he talked about Ric Flair and he basically went off and you could tell that was basically him speaking. Those were the days when there was no teleprompters or some nerd writer said, "Here, this is what you say, you memorize it." Those were the days you go out there with a mic, kind of like on Sportzwire now. Basically, sometimes I go and basically take the mic and basically just either obliterate someone or basically, certainly say something that I shouldn't say. But no, seriously, Scott Steiner was legendary. I mean, he did a promo also. If you ever watched him when he feuded with DDP, where he basically literally kidnapped his then ex-wife at the time, now ex-wife, and he obliterated him in promos, called him I forget some trailer park, or he called him some trailer park scrub. I can't say the full thing, but yeah, Scott Steiner's promos in the peak WCW were not the one when he came in the watered down, whatever run he had, but yeah, his original promos, when he turned heel in WCW, those were oh my God.
My favorite Scott Steiner promos are TNA promos.
The Steiner math,
yeah.
Steiner math.
Great.
I got big booty hoes 9 days out of the week. Bubba goes, "There's only 7 days a week." He's like, "I'm the big booty daddy. I'm the big booty daddy. I got freaks 9 days out of the week." It's great. It's great entertainment. I miss those TNA days.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just listening. We're here with the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson, and the trendsetter who's always trendy, Alan Worthy. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, and thank you for tuning in with us. We're just hanging out here, having a great time. But I think I go back to the TNA days, the peak TNA run. I remember watching. I don't know if you guys were young or too young at this point, but I first remember watching TNA when it first got on here in New York, Fox Sports Net. This was actually 2004, and this was when Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, I think, had just signed with TNA, and I watched TNA through Fox Sports Net. Then they got the Spike deal in 2005, and peak TNA for me was 07, 08, 09, up until they got Hogan and Bischoff. When they got Hogan and Bischoff, that was it. The company,
what's crazy was I didn't even know about TNA. I'm a huge Jeff Hardy fan. Jeff Hardy's my favorite wrestler of all time. I started watching TNA on their Bound for Glory 10-10-10. And that was their big event, and Jeff Hardy turned heel.
Yes,
and I loved every single.
And he joined the Hogan group because Hogan
Immortal
at that point. Yep, Immortal. Yeah,
and then they joined up with Fortune and Ric Flair, and that was AJ Styles and Beer Money.
Yeah, Bobby Roode. Yep, James Storm. Yep.
I at one point I watched TNA on a weekly basis, and I just didn't even keep up with during the whole Miz WWE champion and Cena and Rock. I was watching TNA during that time. I thought it was more entertaining.
I watched TNA up until I want to say weekly until I think Bully Ray had the title with Aces and Eights, and then and then I think after that I stopped watching weekly, and then they wound up losing the deal with Spike. But I would watch Spike TV. I remember TNA when it used to be on Saturday night. Then they moved it to Thursdays, and I remember my brother would ridicule me. Thumbs down, yes. TNA when after the Aces and Eights was thumbs down. Yes, I agree with you. That was funny. But I remember my brother lampooning me. Oh, how could you watch TNA? How could you be a TNA fan? TNA. But TNA had some. Listen, they introduced the X Division.
The Ultimate X match was insane.
I was going to say, and they had, AJ Styles came out of there. CM Punk was in TNA. People forget CM Punk was in TNA. They had, I'm trying to think, Samoa Joe was in there.
Eric Young.
Eric Young. You mentioned Beer Money.
Eli Drake.
Eli
Oh,
Drake.
Ooh,
LA
don't
Knight,
forget the
yeah.
Motor City Machine Guns, dude.
Well,
I
if we're
just mentioned.
talking
No,
about-
I just mentioned them.
If we're talking about TNA originals, man, they had like Amazing Red, who was a phenomenal
Amazing
athlete.
Red actually trained my friend who came on the show 2 years ago to learn how to wrestle, Chris Urban. He is the trainer of the House of Glory, which here in Queens is like a staple, which a Loki also came out of. Well, came out of. He is somebody out of there, out of the company. So yeah, Amazing Red was an amazing one. In fact, I actually am friends with a guy who wrestled in TNA for the UK, Dean Allmark. He's in our Hall of Fame. He wrestled in TNA 20 years ago. Yeah, they had some great. The originals were Samoa Joe, AJ
Styles,
Beer Money.
K Quick at the time was R-Truth. He was
Yeah.
kind of like a TNA original.
Yep.
Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian.
Yep.
mean, Shark Boy.
Yes, I remember Shark Boy.
I remember when they came out.
You cannot forget Abyss.
Oh, Abyss. Oh man,
Abyss, good one.
That Abyss was actually when Shane started learning the black hole. I was like, "Do you got
Velvet Sky?
You can't forget the one and only Zima Ion either, dude.
Zima Ion. Dude, I don't even remember that dude.
And speaking of people, I want to say hello before I get to Ethan. I want to say hello to my friend, Mr. Levi McDaniel. Of course, Levi is doing a great job on behalf of the IMF, the Iowa Midwest Federation Wrestling Company. They have a big show next Saturday. You can check them out. And Levi got a great YouTube channel. You should follow him. He's at LMFP Promotions, and he also plays a lot of WWE 2K. In fact, I was watching, he did a match between Jeff Jarrett and Vince McMahon, and Jeff Jarrett won. I was like, wow, it was a pretty good game. I was actually watching it at like 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm bored. I always have nothing else to do, and I was watching that. I hope, Levi, you're doing well. I've heard a couple different things out there. I don't want to get into too many things from somebody, but I hope you're well, and I thank you for tuning in. Thank you for all you do for us here in making this sport wrestling we love so good. And obviously, you are one of the definitions of all wrestling matters, and thank you for tuning in. But yeah, I'll go back to TNA in a second, but I think WWE turning on Carmelo Hayes was a good decision, and plus would probably get a good heel crowd reaction. Yeah,
for sure.
Obviously.
This Trick is so over. I mean, he's so over right now.
And I'll come back to Levi. Thank you, staying busy, putting on WWE matches. Yes, go. His YouTube page, by the way, has over 250,000 views. He has 1,100 plus subscribers, and he's awesome. So go out there and support him. Go sub to his page. He's got a great page. He's got great content, all types of stuff. He's the man. I hope to see him on here, and definitely we want to support those that are always out there and supporting and leave. Okay, so before I go back to you guys and talk about maybe a fun question, actually outside of wrestling, any other predictions, anything else in the world of mainstream wrestling before I move on?
Yeah, I predict that by 2025, Will Ospreay will become the AEW World Champion.
It's a good one. I hadn't thought about that. It's a good one.
Love me some Will Ospreay. I think he's a phenomenal athlete and wrestler. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the WWE, but at the same time, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but when people go to the WWE, they make them suppress their movesets and their skills.
Yes, I was listening to, it's funny you said that. I was listening to Jeff Jarrett's podcast, speaking of Tennessee, right, Jeff Jarrett, and he was talking about that outside of WWE, you have all this creative freedom to kind of like be your own self. But when you go to WWE, you have to kind of work your character based on like what they give you. So basically, when you go to WWE, you're basically kind of in a way, unless it's like a very rare extreme circumstance, maybe like an AJ Styles, for example, somebody who's so made so long in this business that. But even then, like Dusty Rhodes had to totally change his with the stupid gimmick he had with the, it was in the garbage truck, and he was just the polka dots. But the point is, in WWE, basically almost everybody, with a very few exceptions, has to start over. And some guys don't work out in WWE.
No, you even said AJ. I mean, even AJ had to suppress a lot of his moves.
Yeah, but he was still AJ.
He was still AJ, but like I remember watching AJ when he used to do like the spiral tap and you look at people like Matt Cardona, who the WWE tried to bury, and that
Oh,
the
he's
moment.
become like, listen, I mean, he now
Yeah.
wants to wrestle Mick Foley in quote unquote his final hardcore death match. I mean, I was thinking you guys might want to go wrestle Mick Foley in his final match for a hardcore death match next year, but Matt Cardona is basically
Fuck
saying
that,
he
dude.
wants, he's saying he wants Mick Foley. So I mean, he might get him. I don't know.
I mean, it just shows that like the WWE should be every wrestler's goal, but there are some wrestlers in particular that I would never want to see in a WWE ring.
Hey, listen, Samoa
Like,
Joe didn't have the greatest success in WWE. I mean, he
yeah,
success, but he was far better in Ring of Honor, TNA, AEW. I mean, there's plenty of guys, more guys than not, that go to WWE and don't have the success. I mean, look at EC3. EC3 was
EC3,
great in TNA, and every time he went into WWE, it was like James Storm. I mean, Robert
Swerve.
Roode.
Like
Yes,
Swerve's
Swerve.
the biggest example. Like that dude was a star, and they had no clue what to do with him. They had no clue how to book him.
Eric
I mean,
Young. You mentioned Eric Young. Another
well,
example.
that's also Vince's fault too. Like you can't just blame everybody in creative. It's mainly Vince. Vince had the final say in all of that.
For sure, but like it's still like I would never want to see Kenny Omega in a WWE ring. I'm sorry.
I don't think you're
would be
getting
the
him in a
most-
WWE ring, though.
They would be the most suppressed, watered down version of one of the greatest that we have today.
Well, listen. I brought up Dusty Rhodes, right? Dusty Rhodes, again, he's the mecca, right, when it comes to promos. But his only true run in WWE was basically like he was wearing like polka on his ring tights. I mean, it was basically like he was, with Sapphire. That wasn't Dusty Rhodes that people grew up on in the South. It was almost like he went there and it was a mockery of himself. I mean, there were plenty of guys. I mean, listen, the Bushwhackers were an example. They were the sheep herders in the Mid-South. They go into WWF and they're the Bushwhackers. The Legion of Doom were the Road Warriors. I mean, they were okay in WWF, but they weren't what they were. I mean, there's plenty of guys. Samoa Joe I brought up, right? His run in WWE, I mean, it was plenty of guys that you could go look it up in WWE. But outside of WWE, they were far better. I mean, there's not, there's more of them that are not. That's my point. Eric Young, I brought up, another guy that in TNA is a Hall of Famer. WWE, he was basically what, NXT? He never really had a big run in the call up.
The thing is, you bring up NXT in its heyday. I mean, they were the brand to watch. I mean,
absolutely. In the
Triple H let them wrestle.
Absolutely. In the middle part of the last decade, NXT was the product where you saw, a number of different people. Let me get to some more comments here. Road Warriors exposed themselves in WWE because they actually had to sell and put people over instead of just killing people. Yeah, that's a good point. But the point is, though, but there's a point that I made that in Road Warriors in NWA and other places were like gods. In WWF, they were okay. I mean, but yeah, a couple runs as tag team champions, but it wasn't like what you might have seen in other promotions. I mean, there's like, I would even argue, this is going to sound crazy, but Ric Flair, yes, he's Ric Flair, but his runs in WWF, WWE weren't what he's really truly known for. His runs, look at the movie with, Iron Claw. I just saw Iron Claw, right? Ric Flair in the 70s and the 80s was, the greatest ever wrestler and the greatest living talking mouthpiece. He was truly the definition of what would be a drip king. He had the run with the belt, he won the Royal Rumble, but his run in WWF was WWE, he was, past his prime when he came in. There's plenty of guys who go in and say they came to, WWF, WWE, and what they really do. What, they weren't what they were, and he even agrees with me. Yes, see what I mean? Flair in the 90s, it was lackluster. I mean, listen, another example for you, Vader, right? Remember Vader in Japan, and WCW? I mean, arguably the most dominant, greatest big man ever, right? But he went into WWF. What did he really do?
Well, that was mainly Shawn. Shawn hated working Vader. Hated. Would never want to put the belt. Would never want to put Vader over. And you can look at a lot of their matches. Shawn would belittle
the SummerSlam '96. Yep, I remember that match.
He would belittle him, and if Vader really wanted to, he could have beat the crap out of Shawn, but he chose not to. Which was the craziest thing, because Vader was known for giving receipts, but he never really gave.
Yeah, he was one of the what you call a stiff guy, kind of.
Oh yeah.
stiff wrestler. Yeah, but there's plenty of guys. I mean, you go up and down. They went into WWF, WWE, and they didn't. Remember we're TNA fans. How about Awesome Kong? I mean, her
Yeah.
WWE run. Oh my God, it was like, what was she there for? Like a couple of months? It was like, oh my God, it was
And
horrendous.
then left because she was pregnant.
Well, we know. God,
But when she came back, I mean, they wanted to treat her like a monster, but they didn't want to book her like a monster. She squashed jobbers. She never got any quality wins over
yeah,
anybody.
exactly. Yeah, I mean, Awesome Kong to me again, another TNA original. And TNA, I mean, oh my goodness, she was so dominant. I mean, she was literally like one of the most dominant women's wrestlers. But in WWE, I don't
She
even
beat
remember any
nobody.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do I remember her beating anybody of any substance? I just couldn't think of it. Yeah, Terry Funk. Yeah, Terry Funk's another good one. He had a couple of cups of coffee. Would he have maybe a run in the '80s, and then he had that run with Cactus Jack, and he did nothing in WWF. Yeah, another guy. Honestly, Tom, I would say in the future that WWE will Ospreay debut. He would be an awesome competitor for either Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, or maybe Randy Orton. You sure about that?
I don't see them. For
Me either.
one,
I
I
don't
see
see it.
them if he ever did make the jump to WWE. I'd see him going to NXT first, and he'd probably be in NXT for 6 fucking years, and then they'd finally bring it up to the main roster to be a mid carder. That's kind of how the WWE does these indie guys. I mean, it's kind of sad. But then you have, on the other hand, you have these people who start off in the WWE like a Cody Rhodes, a Drew McIntyre. They leave, go make a big name for themselves to
Well,
come
I would
back.
even argue. Listen, Bobby Lashley's
Bobby
first run in
Lashley.
WWE was okay. I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't great, but he made a bigger name for himself as a shoot fighter, and then he went into TNA, had a great run in TNA, and he came back to WWE and eventually had the success that kind of eluded him in the first run. So sometimes you have to go outside of WWE to come back and have that kind of success. Obviously, Cody Rhodes is just, certainly, this generation's Hulk Hogan, and Drew McIntyre certainly had, a really great run, kind of an underappreciated run in the COVID era. I mean, he's the COVID era champion. That's like such a tough time in any era to be a champion. He had a fantastic run, but it took him, time to shake off the 3MB gimmick, almost like how you guys were in 3 Initials to have to shake that off and be an SWF. It was funny. But also Levi wants to say, don't forget, even in the territories, guys would leave and come back, leave and make a bigger name and come back. That's a good point, because in those days, some guys would come, leave for a few years, come back in. You don't have the territories anymore. You don't have those places where you could go and maybe get some exposure, wrestle different people. And, you don't have that anymore. I mean, it's coming back in different ways, but, in the 70s, hey, listen, Bob Backlund wrestled Ric Flair as the NWA versus the WWF champion. Guys would go back and forth in different places. You don't really have those territories like you used to. That's another place where you get your reps in different places. Just you learn how to work a crowd. You learn how to, have an arsenal. You learn how to be able to have ring psychology. What do we talk about all the time? Like you guys are learning ring psychology. What do we talk about all the time? Learning a crowd, learning to be able to kind of, adjust to the settings you're in. You're in the performance center, sure. You're learning a lot, but if you haven't had the experience of the indies like Levi's had or you guys are having, you may not be able to learn the way that could help you because you're in that WWE machine.
Sure, Shane, you got something?
Yeah, I had a quick theory though.
Well, yeah, not an Austin theory.
No, not an Austin theory, but like it's just something that popped in my brain, like that could possibly happen by the end of 2024.
Okay.
My thought is MJF Royal Rumble 2024. I mean 2025 actually, excuse me.
I could see it. I mean, the thing is, he would be one of the only AEW people, in my personal opinion, that could jump ship and not have to go through the NXT grind.
Oh, absolutely. He was a world champion in AEW. He ain't
yeah.
going to the NXT performance.
But for them to push, it's just hard for me to see them pushing fucking anybody nowadays, honestly. If you're not named John Moxley or something like that.
Well,
You're not
Jade
gonna.
Cargill is going to be a really interesting test, right? Is Jade
Yeah.
Cargill going to really be she would be, other than Cody was a top, but Cody had the name. Jade Cargill is going to put to be the test with that, right? Can Jade Cargill go from AEW to being a WWE top star? I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, there's only a couple, like AJ's done it. Fucking Cody's done it.
You
Jade
mentioned Drew
now.
McIntyre. Well,
Drew McIntyre. Well, he still had the NXT run. He still had like a little NXT run when he came back.
Bobby Lashley, though, you could certainly throw in there.
Oh yeah, Bobby Lashley for sure. There's not many people that skip over that NXT phase because Finn Balor had to do an NXT phase for a long time. Shinsuke did as
Yep.
well.
Gargano, obviously. Ciampa.
I love Gargano, and they have no idea how to.
He's
book
stuck
that
in the
dude.
abyss. He's stuck in that, like Chad Gable's another one, stuck in the
Stuck
abyss.
in purgatory. I
Yep,
mean,
that's it exactly.
there's a bunch of wrestlers like that who have the potential to take a leap.
Priest has done okay. I mean, say Priest from NXT. He's on the border. He's on, like, if he doesn't cash in, he's probably like at a break point.
They're so wishy-washy with him, man. They're so wishy-washy. It's like one moment they want to book the Judgment Day to be these top heels and to be like
they jobbed them for months, and then they made them look strong, and now they're kind of like in this, I guess,
comedy stick.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like, I don't know what to make of that. I don't know.
It's so weird because the thing is, you want people to look at the Judgment Day and be like, this is a feared group, but then you constantly put them in comedy gimmicks. You're adding JD in there. You're booking Damian Priest.
I don't like JD in there at all. I don't like it. I do not like it.
You're killing Finn Balor.
And Rhea's kind of like almost differentiating herself from the group, if you notice. So I kind of feel like, how much longer do they really have left? I feel like they're going to go the route of like DX did almost eventually, and like, or Evolution.
Off.
Yeah.
I think Rhea and Dom will stick together after the group ends. And
I don't know. Rhea, I feel like the fans are starting to be behind her a little bit.
The thing is with Rhea, like, she really hasn't had that much competition with her title the past like year. It feels like.
Was it Raquel Rodriguez? Natty was a joke. Zelina Vega was a joke. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you look at the roster. I mean, certainly some things you can't say on the Raw women's side. It's not as strong as the SmackDown women's side.
For sure, and they overloaded the SmackDown women's side. I mean, they completely overloaded it. I know one return that I thought for sure that we was gonna see and we didn't see was Sasha. I honestly really thought Sasha was going to make.
I don't know what to make of that. Is she AEW bound or Japan? I mean, she's been in New Japan. Like, I don't know what to make of that.
The cool thing about New Japan is they don't sign big contracts. They only sign match-based contracts.
Yeah, I heard they do what they do in Japan. I heard this on a podcast that they'll go out and wrestle for like, I don't know, like a month's run, and they'll do like, a bunch of dates, but then like for like 3 or 4 months, they don't do anything almost. That's why I think I heard that somewhere.
That's how Nick Nemeth is doing his New Japan run. He's signed on for a couple matches, but he signed fully with Impact. And I think Matt Riddle, I think he's fully doing New Japan. I don't think he's doing anything else.
One of our, again, members of the Hall of Fame, before I come back to Levi, what's his name? DVG actually just called. He actually introduced Matt Riddle to the ring because Matt Riddle's doing the Independence, and he's in Maryland. Maybe you guys can talk to the owner of SWF and get him booked in Maryland. But let me get to some comments here. People want to say a few things, and I'll let them do it. Matt Cardona comes back to WWE. Well, his wife's in WWE, so wouldn't that make sense?
Well, his Chelsea Green actually got a lot of flack for that Rumble appearance, but I think she was the best part of it. Her comedy during that Rumble was hilarious.
I think she's really gotten herself over more. She would have been one of those people a year ago. I would have said when she's been in WWE in the past has been kind of like doesn't work here, but she kind of organically got herself over. For her run-ins in WWE prior were like, I don't remember what she did in her runs here.
I think wasn't she in that tag team? What that other chick. I forgot her. I forgot the tag team name, but I
Well,
think they were.
Sonya, her and Sonya were tag team champions. Sonya got hurt, and Piper Niven replaced. But in terms of her prior run, it was like a cup of coffee. I mean, that's what her runs were.
Yeah.
But let me get to some more comments, if you don't mind. I agree. I think Rhea, to me, especially them going to Australia in a couple of weeks, Rhea is going to be like the biggest thing over. So I think, to me, Rhea, the fans like her. They like how she comes out in the ring. She's a larger than life character. She looks good. She's tough. She's got kind of like the modern day version of China. Yeah, she's just a modern day version of China. Jacob Fatu is set to go to New Japan. Interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. Okay, that's a good one. Thank you for that. I have a question. Who was the better leader of the Judgment Day? Finn Balor or Edge? In my opinion, Edge was better because he brought back his classic heel character. Yeah, but what was he the leader for? Like 4 months?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say how long.
3 months? I know.
Right now, in my personal opinion, the leader's Rhea, even though they claim it's Damien. But I'm a huge Finn Balor fan. And they for the past like 7 years,
since he won the title and got hurt, has never been the same. I agree.
They've never knew how to book him since. And the thing that's pissed me off the most is like why they brought the Prince thing back a little bit, but why not let him be the leader of the group and let him revert back to his Prince Devitt days when he was the leader of the Bullet Club, the original founder of the Bullet Club? You have a big opportunity in bringing that character in, and you choose not to.
Yeah, I feel
It's
like
crazy.
Finn, I don't know. What are you eating, by the way?
Me?
You want to tell the crowd what you're eating?
Pizza rolls.
Pizza rolls. Interesting. Well, I hope they're tasting as good as the strawberry popsicle.
Oh yeah, I killed that popsicle.
That's a great value brand too. That's 10 times better than Tostino's, and I put that's on record.
Because I haven't ate pizza rolls. I'm in New York, so like for me, only pizza I eat is like the real pizza. So what brand of pizza rolls is that? Because like I said, I haven't had pizza rolls since I don't know. I probably never, honestly. I'm in New York. All we do is eat pizza.
Man, these are the great value brand you buy at Walmart.
Okay. You know what? If I ever go have pizza rolls, I'll certainly let you know about them. Okay.
Speaking of New York pizza, real quick, off topic. But
right.
my grandfather,
I'm actually starting to like it. I'm starting to think maybe we should do these shows more often because I'm actually kind of liking this. This is actually pretty good, guys.
Lay back and chill. My grandfather lived in New York, and I went to go visit him. And we went to a gas station, and I swear this gas station had the best pizza I've ever had in my life, which I've never had New York pizza.
Were you in New York City?
I was not in New York City. It was, I say like 6 hours outside. It's a little town near Syracuse.
That's not pizza, man. That's New York City pizza is not what you had.
Totally different.
Oh, what you probably had is like you have 7-Eleven where you guys are, right? 7-Eleven has pizza that it's like, I mean, it's pizza, but it's not really pizza. Like if you went to like New York City.
Our 7-Elevens down here don't have pizza.
Okay, because they have
certain ones do.
Okay, there you go. See, I stand corrected. But like New York City pizza, like that's like having like a meal. It's like if I would go to like a gas station and have pizza, I would be like, if I'm in a pinch where I have nothing to eat, I would have it. But like in terms of like having a real New York pizza, you're certainly like, you're way off base. Yeah.
Now I got a question. This is a question that I've been wanting to ask. What is a chopped cheese?
A what?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Chopped cheese. I think that's more of a Boston thing than I think it is a New York thing.
I haven't heard that in New York. A chopped cheese?
Yeah, I think it's more of a Boston thing.
Okay. I'm trying to think who could we ask in Boston. Well, there's a guy, if Levi's there, they're still called Loose Cannon, quote unquote. He's from Massachusetts. He would probably know that, but I have no idea about chopped cheese. So sorry about that. But, speaking of things here real quick before we move on to a few other thoughts on what you guys are going to be up to. So I know, Mr. Worthy, you wanted to in a worthy-like way, talk about this year's big game. I know, obviously, you certainly got some thoughts on it. The Chiefs, the 49ers. Are you a Taylor fan? Are you not a Taylor fan? And, obviously, since we're here and I asked yesterday's guest about their thoughts on the big game, I got to almost hypothetically ask Your thoughts on this year's Super Bowl? 'Cause I know you're locked into football because I follow you on Threads, and everybody can follow you on all platforms at Alan Michaels still. Chiefs and 49ers, what do you think?
I'm a Packer fan, and we lost to the Niners in the
You
divisional
should have won that
round.
game. That game was
Should
yours.
have
That game
won
was
that
yours.
game. But honestly, I didn't think the Niners were going to get past the Lions. They played so poorly against us, and we were a 9-8 team. Like, we barely made the playoffs.
Oh,
We shouldn't have
listen,
made
you
the
lost to the
playoffs.
Giants on Monday Night Football, and you lost
Yeah.
to the Buccaneers on a 1 o'clock game, and it was like you had like no offense. Like honestly, you had to beat the Vikings, I think, to make the playoffs. No, it was the Vikings and the Bears. You had to beat the Vikings and the Bears the last 2 weeks of the season to make the playoffs.
Yeah, it was crazy to see us even make the playoffs. Not only make the playoffs, but destroy the Cowboys in the
Oh
wild
my
card, which
God,
is
I'm
always
surprised McCarthy still has a job after that. I don't know.
it's
Jerry Jones is like, I don't know how he kept him still because he always fires people.
McCarthy, he just wanted to give the Packers one more playoff win. I think this was what it was, But my thoughts on the Super Bowl is I think it's just going to be a repeat of what happened in like 2019. I think the Chiefs are just going to dominate the entire game. The 49ers are a good team, but in big in big
They never
playoff
win in these
games,
big spots.
there's something about them, man. They have a stout defense, and they have a good offense.
They have the best all-around offensive player in the sport. I mean, they're
But the Chiefs' defense right now is playing top 5, and when you have somebody like Patrick Mahomes behind center, if you're wanting to try to get stops in the Chiefs, it's not going to happen. I'm
the
sorry,
Chiefs,
it's just not
the
going to
Chiefs.
happen.
Listen, the Chiefs reinvented themselves. They completely reinvented themselves. They went from a team that was a run and shoot team to a team that really won all these games. Basically, is kind of like a
Controlling the clock.
Well, how about the game 2 weeks ago or last week? 26 of the first 36 minutes they had time of possession. They wound up having it 37-23. What do we say always in the NFL? You win with time of possession. You had 14 more minutes than the other team, you win.
And that's purely based off Patrick Mahomes having the wherewithal to not particularly go downfield much, and it also shines a big light on Isaiah Pacheco. I am a huge fan of Isaiah Pacheco. That dude runs hard. He fights the ground every single play, and that was a running back that I did not think was going to come out of the woodwork and actually prove himself to be like a top. I'd say top 15 running back. I think next year he breaks
Top
out
10.
to a bigger role, to a top 10. But if I'm taking him in fantasy, I'm taking him 3rd round. I'm not taking him the first 2 rounds. I'm taking him like 3rd, 4th round.
So you got the Chiefs over the 49ers because of experience,
defense. Big game opportunity. You have somebody like Andy Reid who's calling the plays. I mean,
Spagnuolo on defense.
Yeah, I mean the biggest thing with me right now is the way the Chiefs defense is playing. I mean, we've never seen the Chiefs win a Super Bowl with the top 5 defense.
No,
but this past season, L'Jarius Sneed, Trent McDuffie, the front 7, Chris Jones is the leader of that defense, and I'm a big fan of the Great New Heights podcast that Travis and Jason Kelsey do. And so I got to hear a lot about what happens behind the scenes with the Chiefs, and they're locked in, man. And I'm a huge Travis Kelsey fan. I'm not that big into the whole Taylor Swift thing.
I was going to go right to, I got to be honest. I said it on the show last night, and I'm going to get to Levi McDaniel in a second. Of course, the legendary Levi McDaniel. But I really cannot stand this whole Taylor Swift thing in the NFL. In fact, it was so annoying to me today that the commissioner was on ESPN, and he was basically justifying Taylor Swift and her importance to the NFL. I'm like, come on, get out of here. Taylor Swift has no bearance on these games. The fact that we spend so much time on it. And I got to be honest with you guys, I don't know how you hope your wife's not listening to this, but Mandy Rose has a podcast, and she was talking about the whole situation between Travis Kelsey and Taylor Swift. And this is her opinion, not mine. I don't want to, say this is my opinion, but she was saying that Travis Kelsey could have had any other, hot looking, woman. And ultimately he chose Taylor Swift. And she was thinking, Mandy Rose, or the artist formerly known as Mandy Rose, that it's a contrived relationship, and that if you really think about Taylor, this is not my opinion. I'm not saying she's not attractive, but she was saying Taylor Swift, if you really looked at her, she's like cute, but she, for an NFL football player, the shape that he's in and the money that he's got, she's like, if you saw her on the street, would you be like, oh my God, she's the most beautiful woman in the world? No. You'd say, yeah, okay. But you wouldn't.
I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate on this because Travis, when the New Heights podcast first started happening last year, he actually was like, if Taylor Swift ever wants to slide in my DMs,
I know, I
they're
heard
open.
about it. And, I heard
Yeah.
about it, but
And
I don't know.
Taylor does kind of have a significance in the NFL on the money side. She's brought in a lot of new viewers who normally
sure.
wouldn't watch NFL games. And Chiefs have had record high,
It was 40.
attendance.
I'm with you on that. But there was 41 million that viewed, I think, a Monday night game with them. It was 41 million, 28 million for the Jet Chiefs game. And I mean, the numbers have been through the roof, for sure.
So that's that. The thing is, she has importance, money, and marketability wise. But if you're an actual true football fan, you don't care.
Exactly. I just feel like it's too much. Like they have to show her. They have to show her even for like the 40 seconds kissing him. Like, oh, I really need to see that. Like, why do I want to see that?
I would much rather see Jason Kelsey.
I mean, the thing is, man, that's why NFL is officially labeled sports entertainment now.
And who do you got? The Chiefs or the 49ers, the Southern Bulldogs?
Neither. I don't care.
Okay.
My team's not in it, so I don't care.
I'm going for the 49ers because my opinion's always been since I'm a little kid, because I'm in New York City, right? So I'm not a Yankees fan in baseball, so none of my teams I've ever seen in my life win a championship. So my theory always is I don't want the team that's always won to win, because I hate what everybody wants to be front runners. So my opinion is that I'm rooting for the 49ers, but my gut says the Chiefs have been there. But let me get to some comments. I'm going for the Iowa State and Iowa players. It's a good point. Okay, yeah, I could definitely see that. You know what could have been a good idea for WWE if they could bring back its Judgment Day pay-per-view, so the Judgment Day would have had their own pay-per-view. What do you think? Yeah. All right. Not bad. It's not bad. Not terrible. I just don't know how much longer we're going to see the Judgment Day, but yeah, kind of clever. I'm surprised. But you know what? I'll tell you why that hasn't happened. You ready? Because the WWE writers, most of them have never watched WWE before they got the job, so they wouldn't know anything about prior WWE pay-per-views. That's the reason why. So, seriously, Jeff Jarrett was talking about that on his podcast, that a lot of these writers, they don't watch WWE. They don't know WWE.
Freddie Prinze Jr. was a writer for a while for the WWE.
I did see that. But he was actually a wrestling fan. He actually, he was a legitimate wrestling fan. I respected him because he knew the product. He really knew his stuff. So him, I would definitely cut some slack for. I hate the Chiefs being from Iowa with no pro teams. Everyone in the state, like, by the way, somebody else we know was one half of the tag team champion. Well, was one of the tag team champions, Mr. Remington Stryker. And the Chiefs bandwagon because of Mahomes, too many fake. That's exactly my thoughts. My thoughts.
Yep. I personally love Patrick Mahomes. I think I would love to see him win this bowl. I don't know.
You said 49ers. You root for the 49ers, though.
No. I'm rooting for the Chiefs.
Oh, you root for the Chiefs. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Patty's a really humble guy, and he gets a lot of flack for his family and
his family.
Chiefs
His father
fans
just got
in
arrested.
His brother's
in jail. Yep.
If you take a big step back and look at the bigger picture here, you're talking about a guy who, before the draft, wasn't relatively known, who worked his ass off, who sat behind Alex Smith for a year, and then every single season since he's took over the reins has been his MVP caliber, has taken his team to Super Bowl, AFC Championship.
15 playoff wins already. He has 15 playoff wins. That's crazy.
He's crazy. I mean, we haven't seen anything like this in a very long time.
Well, do you know that if he wins on Sunday, right, there's only a few quarterbacks that have won 3 Super Bowls or more. And here's the class. Bradshaw won 4. Montana won 3. Aikman won 3. And Brady won 7. Brady won 7, if I'm not mistaken. Right? 6 with New England, 1 with Tampa. And Mahomes would win 3. So that's it. Those are the only quarterbacks that have won 3 Super Bowls or more.
Every single person like that on that list is a Hall of Famer, except that bum Troy Aikman. That dude is
Yeah.
freaking garbage. No, I'm sorry. Him and Terry Bradshaw have the worst stats to
Well,
ever get in the
Bradshaw.
Hall of
Oh,
Fame.
Bradshaw. Yeah, I was like, Aikman. Yeah, I mean, I saw the tail end of his career. Yeah, Aikman. It
That
wasn't.
guy was a bone. Everybody was on Brock Purdy about being a game manager. No, that man Troy Aikman was a game manager.
Aikman's numbers are not that.
He
Not
had the
that good.
greatest running back of all time in Emmitt
Emmitt
Smith.
Smith.
One
He had
of
Michael
the
Irvin.
greatest.
He
He
had
had
Michael
Michael
Irvin.
Irvin. He had a top 3 defense every
He had
single
Daryl
year.
Johnson as fullback.
He had Deion Sanders on defense. I mean, the
Charles
thing is,
Haley. He had
Charles
Haley.
Haley. I mean, he
Jay
had
Novacek.
stacked
Yeah.
teams. I
I
mean,
gotta
that
be honest.
dude.
Yeah, it's a good point. Aikman's career. I mean, it's not overwhelming. Montana, though, certainly the first big stat quarterback. I mean, his stats aren't like so gaudy now, but when he retired, they were like really good.
I'm a big Dan Marino fan. Nobody gives Marino the credit that he deserves over
He didn't
somebody
win
like Troy Aikman.
because he didn't win one. That's why he didn't
He
win.
didn't win one, but
He didn't win the big one. You know, this guys didn't win it. Listen, I mean, you know, unfortunately, listen, Peyton Manning is lucky he got 2. He didn't play great in the 2 wins, but you know, he's got 2. There's a lot of guys that don't win, and you know, Dan Marino is one of those guys. Phillip Rivers didn't win one. You know,
no. Let's see. I think a great quarterback. Jim Kelly went to 4 straight, lost every single one of them.
Jim Kelly would be another one I throw in there. Fran Tarkenton went to.
Fran Tarkenton does not get talked about enough.
There you go.
He set the wave for all these.
Dan Fouts.
Dan Fouts. Man, Fran Tarkenton, that dude. I see. A lot of kids grew up watching Nickelodeon and stuff like that. I grew up watching old VHS tapes of like Fran Tarkenton, Howie Long, all these old guys. That's
Fran
what I grew up
Tarkenton.
watching.
Fran Tarkenton never won a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers for the modern fans would be up there. Josh Allen could be Matt Ryan. Yeah, Matt Ryan. Josh Allen might be now in that category. I think he.
Josh Allen. You're in the New York area. How do you feel about Josh Allen?
I think that Josh Allen is a great quarterback. I do think that he turns the ball over a little bit. I feel like though that he suffers from kind of the same thing that Phillip Rivers suffers from, in the fact that he's kind of blocked by Burrow and Mahomes, whereas Rivers was blocked by Roethlisberger and Brady.
And Manning. Like the thing is, people like Rivers and Josh Allen and Dan Marino. Great quarterbacks, wrong timing.
Well, Marino was blocked by Kelly because they were competing.
Yeah.
He was blocked by John Elway,
Joe Montana, Steve Young. You can even throw in there.
Yeah, Steve Young. People actually tuning into this. Steve Young was great, but if you look at his body of work, he was only like 5 years. He was, what I compare? You'll appreciate this. This will turn into wrestling. Steve Young is like the Bret Hart of quarterbacks. If you look at his run, it's like really only like 5 years or 6. Kind of like Bret Hart's true run in WWE as a main eventer. His run is only 5 years. WCW, he had maybe a year, but really Steve Young's run as a great quarterback is just like 5 years, maybe 6. The rest of his career, it's garbage. Man. But it's great. He's a Hall of Famer. But Steve Young truly, as a great quarterback, is about 6 years. It's like 6. Bret Hart's run is like a main event guy is like 6 years. I got more comments. Let me follow up to people. I honestly say that the 49ers have a chance to win. Wow. Breaking news there. Breaking news. They have a chance to win. They're in the Super Bowl. Travis and Taylor is like a repeat of Tony Romo and Jessica Simpson all over again. Annoying. And I would add, spoiler alert, he'll probably chuckle at this. I thought Jessica Simpson was way more attractive than Taylor Swift. In Jessica Simpson's prime, Jessica Simpson, in her prime, not now. She's like, what is she, like 45?
Her arms don't match her body, man.
No, but she was more, in her prime, she was more attractive than Taylor Swift.
Talk about Dukes of Hazzard, Jessica Simpson.
Yeah, exactly. You don't think so?
No, man. She's got big ears too, dude.
Taylor Swift's like, I'll be honest, like if you saw her
I would choose Taylor Swift every time because
Ooh.
I'm
I
a
liked you.
Swiftie, man.
I was gonna make an announcement in a few minutes about doing something for you, but now I'm like, I don't know. Now you say
Oh,
that.
you can't do that to me, Tom.
Well, Jessica Simpson in her prime, from I would say like 2000 to like 2006 or 7, she was way ahead of Taylor Swift.
I mean,
Way
yeah,
ahead.
she's beautiful, yes, but like my personal opinion, I'm choosing Taylor.
All right, well, I got a lot more comments here. Patrick Mahomes is sore. They gave him too much credit from the start.
I don't know. He turned the whole franchise around. I'm be honest.
Yeah,
He
that was
turned
a
whole
franchise that never got over the hurdle. And that was a franchise that really they won a Super Bowl in what, 40 something years?
Yeah, they won Super Bowl 2.
Two?
I want to say.
Yeah, and they went to one
Because
other
we
Super
beat them in
Bowl.
the first one. I'm just saying. No,
Yeah.
we won the first 2. They won Super Bowl 3. The Packers won the first 2 Super Bowls.
And they won one, and they hadn't got back since
Yeah, they
Mahomes.
haven't even got anywhere near before him.
49ers are hungry for a ring. Quick stat on the 49ers. Did you know, you're a football fan, the 49ers have actually played in 19 championship games. There's only been 54 NFC championship games. They've actually played in more than a third of the NFC championship games. That franchise might be the greatest modern franchise. If they win the Super Bowl, I mean, they would have to be right there. They win 6. They've been to 19 championships, and they've been to 9 Super Bowls. That's the franchise is under the radar. And a lot of those are since Montana. So if you go back probably since Montana, they've probably been to like almost half the NFC championship games.
Yeah, I mean,
franchise.
They're a historic franchise. The thing is, when I was in high school, the 49ers were literal like dog meat. They were so bad.
Yes, they were bad after Mariucci left. They had Mike Singletary as coach. They had some, and was it Chip Kelly was coach? They were bad for a while, the 49ers.
They went to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick, and then the whole thing with Kaepernick happened. And then they had C.J. Beathard as their starting quarterback. And it was downhill.
Harbaugh went back to college.
Yeah.
And then they were bad for a while. And then Shanahan came in and kind of overnight turned them around. And they're in their second Super Bowl in 5 years. But yeah, they were pretty bad for a while. They were bad after Mariucci left to go to the Lions. And they were bad for like the whole decade. Then Harbaugh came in and turned them around. Levi McDaniel wants to say, I agree with you. He's humbled and loved by Kansas City. He's great. Aikman was okay. Yeah, his stats weren't great. He wasn't Elway, Young, or Marino. He just had a great team. Exactly. He basically had all the ingredients cooked for him, and all he got to do was basically put the water on and boil it. That's it. That's all he got to do.
Yeah.
You know, Elway had some not good teams at all, and he was always up to stat-wise. Young was very extraordinary. He was a running and throwing quarterback. But his run is only like 6 or 7 years. Marino speaks for itself. Marino.
I mean, I give Aikman some sort of credit because the thing is, like, Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't do the same thing Aikman did.
Who?
Jimmy Garoppolo.
I know. I was being facetious.
Niners.
Oh my God, Jimmy
he
G
couldn't do it.
Oh my God, Jimmy. He was so bad. The Raiders benched him after like 4 games.
Yeah.
I mean, he was so bad.
I mean, Dak Prescott's kind of in the same situation as Elway in a way. And he couldn't ever really get it done.
Good point. Yeah. And I think Elway had even more success because he went to Super Bowls before the 2. Yeah, Drew Bledsoe was a good quarterback. Drew Bledsoe was another one that he got to the Super Bowl with the Patriots. He was a good quarterback, but got blocked. And then he got hurt, and then Brady took over. Then he went to Buffalo, had some good years there. Went to Dallas. He was okay in Dallas for a year or two. He's not in the Hall of Fame either, if I'm not mistaken, right?
The thing is about Drew Bledsoe is in that Super Bowl is unfortunately he went up against Reggie White.
Yep.
And Reggie White tore.
He got sacked. I know. I remember watching that game. He got sacked like 70 times or something like that.
He got sacked a lot. Reggie White had like 3 sacks. I think Gilbert Brown had a couple.
Defense. Yeah.
And then Desmond Howard in that game returned 2 kicks for touchdowns.
Who we know is on the College Game Day crew. Desmond Howard was a bust, but then had won the Super Bowl MVP and got a big money deal after that. Desmond Howard was, a top pick, Heisman winner, but he had that one moment. Yeah, Drew Bledsoe, I remember him very well. He had a very good career. He was he couldn't run though. Unfortunately, he was like literally like he could just like, who was like that also? You remember Matt Hasselbeck?
Matt Hasselbeck,
another quarterback. Dude. Yeah, he was another one.
He was a relatively decent name growing up. I mean, I
Yeah,
remember him being in Seattle, being a good quarterback.
he was
Uh,
good,
then
but never
he came to Tennessee
won a
as a
couple games.
backup.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he came in for Jake Locker during that whole thing.
Not a
Oh
Hall
my
of
god.
Famer. He was good, kind of stat wise, probably a little less than Drew Bledsoe, but probably had more success in the postseason. But yeah, that's another quarterback I thought. Yeah, there's a lot of guys you could think of for sure. But obviously, I can see that the bulldozer wants to bulldoze me because he wants to move on for the remaining minutes of the show.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you before I ask you something, and I'll get to more comments because people still want to talk. I guess people like it. Maybe we'll do more of this. It seems like people like it. What is next? What is the future for both of you guys? Obviously, we spoke a little about SWF. We know you're obviously training. What's the future for both of you guys? I'll start with you, the bulldozer.
I don't honestly know what the future has in store for me, man. But my main goal is to, if I don't make it to the WWE, at least I want to say that I worked for like Ring of Honor, NWA, shows like that. Like I don't know, that's like a goal for my future. Like that's what.
Let me ask you guys a question. I don't know if you can answer this or not. You guys obviously were in Resurrection Wrestling, and you were at the Fallout show. You have any impressions of Jimmy Controversy?
He was really to himself. I know that he's on his independent journey right now as we
Yes,
speak as
correct.
well.
Yeah.
I think he's a good guy. I've
There was no much reaction with him. You guys didn't work much with him. I know obviously you weren't in the card with him, but there was no interaction. So nothing good or bad then, really.
nah, not really. Just kind of
Nothing
kept to
good or
himself.
bad. It's just I don't know the guy.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
I've talked to him a little bit on Instagram.
Yes.
But he's one of them people who I feel like has a lot of messages a day, so it's hard
Yeah,
for him to
he
get back to
does.
people.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to get a hold of him. But
Fair enough.
he's other than that, he's a pretty decent guy. I mean, I
Okay.
haven't had much interaction with him, but
Fair enough. So before I ask what's next for you, Levi's has agreed. Jessica Simpson and her naughty little sister. Was it Ashley Simpson?
Ashley Simpson, yeah,
Ashley, wasn't she married to? Was it Pete Wentz? Who was the was he Fallout Boy? Was he Fallout Boy? I think Pete
he
Wentz was.
was he was one of them bands. I know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't find Ashley though as attractive as Jessica though. Wasn't she the one that it lip synced on Saturday Night Live? Wasn't she the one that lip
Yeah,
synced? Yeah,
she's the one who kind of threw a fit over it and walked off
yeah. I
stage.
don't think I was as attracted to her as Jessica. Doug Flutie or Vinny Testaverde, who you pick? So, well, before I move on to you, I would say that Doug Flutie means more overall to the sport of the NFL, but Vinny Testaverde had a much more successful career because he just hung on till he was like 80 years old. But Doug Flutie was in his prime, one of the greatest quarterbacks nobody saw because he played like 12 years in the CFL. And by the time he came back to the Bills, he had a couple good years, but he was like, wasn't, what he was. But, yeah.
He mounted a playoff run.
With
I
the
want to
Bills.
say for the Bills,
Yeah.
yeah.
He was a comeback player of the year, got to the playoffs a couple times with them. Then he came in, he was the Chargers quarterback. And then he hung on for a while. He won a Super Bowl with the Patriots. He was one of their backups. Yeah,
he did that drop kick. I know
I
that.
was going to mention that he played till he was like 45. I mean, listen, he had a
Yeah.
long NFL career, but I feel like his most success was in Canada. But I would go with Vinny Testaverde. But a bonus quarterback, by the way, I got to mention before I move on to you and ask you guys if you want to get an announcement out of me. But I would also say Warren Moon is a quarterback nobody talks about. Warren Moon was like in the 80s and 90s. He was like one of the greatest gunslingers. Look him up, Warren Moon. Warren Moon.
Yeah. I know a pretty good amount of Warren Moon because we're from Tennessee and he's an Oiler legend.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole big controversy. Do you count the Oilers as Tennessee Titan history or do you count them as Houston Texan history? In my personal opinion, I think they're Tennessee Titan history because they were the Titans.
But that's like
was
in
the
baseball.
Oilers.
But that's like in baseball. Do you count the Montreal Expos history as a part of the Washington Nationals?
Well, I kind of play devil's advocate and consider. Do you consider the Baltimore Ravens the Cleveland Browns?
Technically, yes. Well, if you
Yeah.
wouldn't you say yes, technically. because that
'Cause
was they adopted the history. They moved. I mean,
technically the Ravens were the Browns at one point. I mean,
yeah.
they
I remember it yesterday when the Browns moved. I remember as a little kid. I remember it was a really like big deal that the Browns moved. It was like I remember it like yesterday, and it was in 1996. They moved.
mhm.
And it was like they played in Municipal Stadium, which was like a dump. It was like a dump of a place. It was like you thought that the Meadowlands in New York was a dump before they replaced it. The Municipal Levi probably knows what I'm talking about. That was a dump, total dump. But yeah, I go with Testaverde on the sheer NFL numbers. If we're talking great QBs, can't leave out Kurt Warner. Yeah, Kurt Warner.
That guy.
And Kurt Warner is, real quick on this before I ask you a question, then I promise you I'll get to it. Kurt Warner is this close of winning 3 Super Bowls in his career. This close. And that's the difference of him being in the Hall of Fame. This close, literally.
Freaking James Harrison, man.
Yeah.
Taking that pass off.
And Adam Vinatieri.
Yeah, and Adam Vinatieri.
3 Super Bowls. Kurt Warner, think about it. He would be in the Hall of Fame easily because there's only how many quarterbacks to have won 3? It's Bradshaw, it's Montana, it's Aikman, and it's Brady, and potentially if Mahomes wins Sunday. And Warner would have been there. So yeah, Warner, he was like, but he would have had the 3 Super Bowls. I think his body of work was only like 6 great years. So yeah, you know what?
And it was spread out too. He had
weird.
4 great years from like 99 to
like
02.
Yeah.
And then he had a big layoff, and then he had his career resurrection
with the Cardinals.
in Arizona. Because he was a backup quarterback for the Giants for a while.
He was the starter before Eli Manning got the job. If I'm not mistaken, I guess you could say that theoretically, if Steve Young's in the Hall of Fame, could you put Kurt Warner? I mean, I know Young technically, I think, is 1-3 because he was a backup. I don't really count it as 3 Super Bowls. But, I mean, you could say if Young's a Hall of Famer, Warner should be a Hall of Famer. I mean, the stats are probably in Young's favor, but
I think just in general, Kurt Warner should be in the Hall of Fame for his story alone. And not only that, like he proved he wasn't a system quarterback when he went to Arizona at the age of 38 and took them on a run.
And I want to say hello to one of our friends here. Of course, he is the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling, Mr. Hillbilly Tilly. And we were actually speaking with Hillbilly real quick. This will turn into wrestling for a second because we were hoping we'd like to still see a guy that you actually shared a locker room with, the Nemesis James Taylor, to hopefully be a part of the AW. Obviously, I know you guys have moved on to the Indies, but I certainly hope, Hillbilly, that we can certainly mount a campaign, and that campaign starts on Sunday when the Nemesis James Taylor, your old colleague from TBW, gets inducted into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, which kind of leads me then to great segue. We're talking about Hall of Fames. Now, obviously you guys have heard of this thing called the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, right? You've heard about it? You know a thing or two about it, right? Now, obviously, there's a lot of people that are in this Hall of Fame. Certainly some guys that you've shared a locker room with, like, James Taylor as of Sunday, and, Joshua Allen, your former boss, and some other big names, like, guy Dan Burns played in the college basketball Final Four. Dean Allmark wrestled for TNA. Luke Leyland, who fought in Dombay in England, and a whole list of people that have certainly, been in this sport. Omen Black and Soldier GP. You've seen them on here on Sportswire. They're in the Hall of Fame. And I was thinking, you guys obviously in a prior company with 3 initials, were main eventers on your way to certainly, being rising stars. But now you've taken the journey to be in the Indies, where we know in the SWF, you guys are going to go on and be bigger and better things. So I was thinking here, and obviously, hopefully Hillbilly Tilly can hear this. So maybe he can give some motivation to kind of talk to the powers that be in AWL to get James Taylor, hopefully in AW, who's going to be in our Hall of Fame. But, speaking, though, of this Hall of Fame, I was thinking, guys, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, Alan Worthy, the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson, would you guys want to be worthy enough to be inducted maybe into the Sportswire Radio's Hall of Fame?
Absolutely, 100%.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
It's an honor.
So you think we could make that happen in the coming weeks?
Absolutely.
For sure.
So you think that would be okay with the SWF?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You think then obviously I could come up with a few words and thoughts and obviously talk about, why you guys are Hall of Famers and why you guys will go on in the SWF and, be worthy of even bigger and better things. And maybe, certainly we could stay trendy enough with that and, have a great speech and, certainly, maybe have you guys more often with that. So, that's something we could do, right? Want to make sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
1,000% on that. Yes.
Wow, that's good. So what an honor it's going to be to induct you guys in the Hall of Fame. Maybe we can do that. I don't know, in the next few weeks, maybe the next month or so, and maybe do more of these shows because people seem to like us talking. We have like people on YouTube still at like 1:00 in the morning my time. So you know what? You might want to stay tuned even Sunday after the big game because James Taylor's coming back and, an old colleague of yours. Would you like to see James Taylor, by the way, wrestle in some different places? I know you guys are out of the yard and, you guys are certainly retired from that. You guys are going into bigger and better things, but there's a company in Alabama, they've certainly been proving themselves as a premier company and they've got some rising stars and, they might be one of the places to watch, but do you think that the nemesis James Taylor should continue his career and maybe continue it in a place closer to his home in Alabama? If you have any thoughts from afar on that.
I have a couple of thoughts.
Good. I love to hear them.
So, my personal opinion, I don't think James Taylor should do backyard. I think he should go strictly indie. James Taylor has a lot of potential inside the ring and outside the ring. He has his own mouthpiece. The man can talk his head off.
But you don't think, though, that in a place like the AWL, the Alliance Wrestling League, where James Taylor could almost be like what Hulk Hogan was to WCW in 1994. He could come in there and, take a company that's certainly growing, but put it into the stratosphere, almost like a company you used to work for at one point. I mean, he could really be the guy that could be the place where he could build his legacy upon. And, wouldn't that be something but you think though he shouldn't do that. He should go in the indies and maybe join you guys.
I think James Taylor would work really well in the indies because
do you think he'd work in the SWF?
That's all up to him if he wants to make his way up here,
But you don't think him staying home in Alabama and again, being somebody that, it would be a dream to see him in a company and help that company grow.
Well, considering the fact that, he has worked indie before.
He has.
And considering the fact he was traveling from Alabama to Lafayette, where the other show's at.
That company you worked for down north.
Yes. Yeah.
Or up north.
Oh, yeah. I lost my train of thought, Tom.
Well, you were talking about this. So the nemesis James Taylor, you don't think should maybe consider staying home and helping grow and build the company, basically.
Well, absolutely, man. It's just when you spot talent, you spot talent. You don't just overlook it. Just like in the other company I was working for, people that had talent got overlooked. And
there's,
the thing is with the backyard industry, it's nothing but friends and family, and they book each other to win. And it's just, I would rather be in an environment where it's neutral.
I understand, and I understand that. I know Mr. Taylor obviously is certainly, I'm sure, considering his options, and I don't want to speak on behalf of Mr. Taylor, just like I don't want to speak on behalf of Mr. Tilley and his company, but I just see as a fan afar, I just think to me, it would be a dream scenario to see James Taylor stay home and being able to watch him every week at home in a company that he can call home for the rest of his career and help a young company continue to grow and go into the stratosphere and have all those dream matches ahead and have the opportunity to see him wrestle and use his experience, his massive following to help a company grow where maybe they would be the number 2 company in the yard with 3 initials. Maybe they'd be the number 1 company one day. Because I just remember Hulk Hogan coming out, and he was coming out into a limousine. He came out to Walt Disney World, and it was a celebration. Now, if it was me, I know I'll let you speak, Mr. Worthy, and we'll certainly get to closing thoughts. But I would just like Mr. Tilley to know this, very kindly, because I really like the company in Alabama. I happen to like them. If it was me and it was my company, I would certainly consider rolling out the red carpet. I would certainly make sure that there would be a limo waiting for Mr. Taylor. I would certainly make sure that there would be any type of things he would need provided, whether it's amenities, whether it would be able to be, if it's room service in that company, whatever it might be, with his massive respect that he carries with his name and this business and this sport, with the ability to attract eyeballs that nobody has ever seen before in the company out there in Alabama, and the fact that he could be marketed finally to be home. Just like in 1994 when Hulk Hogan came out there and he came on that limousine and it was in Walt Disney World, and we got to see Hogan and the balloons and the family. We saw Muhammad Ali, Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, I would love to see some of the biggest people in this sport get the opportunity to see the nemesis James Taylor stay home and build a company from the ground up and make that company, just maybe with his following and dedicated fan base, to be maybe the number 1 or even number 2 company in this sport in the yard. I'm just saying, that would be me. I don't know. That's just me. That's what I'm just saying. If I was the owner of that company, and if I was him in his shoes, I would forget about all my booking. I would forget about who I have, and basically do what's best for business. Do what the fans want. Do what we want on Sportswire. Do what's certainly best for social media engagements, and really show that you're a company that wants to work with everybody and put on the best product for the fans. Is get the nemesis James Taylor into your company and do it right now. But again, it's not my company. If it was my company, I would certainly, do what I thought was best for business. And I certainly hope and wish the person that runs the Alliance Wrestling League very well in his decisions. But I would certainly rip up all of my booking plans and make sure the minute I have that chance, get on my phone. Yes, Mr. Taylor, what can I do for you? Would you like to come into AWL? You're a free agent? Well, how can we make this done? And let's do it right now. That's what I would wind up doing. Just saying. That's my rant. You want to say anything else, Alan Worthy?
For the whole James Taylor thing, it just all depends on what he wants to do at this point in his career. If he wants to continue, if he wants to stay home, I know, not throwing shots, James Taylor is a little bit older. He's a little bit farther in his career than we are.
Just like Hogan in WCW. I think, listen, the opportunity to stay home. That's what I'm saying.
It's a big grasp, or he could go, the indie route and really, take this a little bit more, further his career, take this a little bit more serious. But if not, if he wants to go a different route, there's no shade, no hate.
Absolutely.
It's doing whatever's best for him at this point.
Absolutely. You know what? And I want to put it out there. Whatever James Taylor wants to do is great for him. Whatever they want to do in the Alliance Wrestling League, God bless them. I want to put it out there. We like the company. We have them come on our show. I enjoy their product. I enjoy their new champion, AJ Morgan. I've had great conversations with him. Dylan Andrews came on. I'm a big fan of his work. ADT is their champion. I think very highly of his background. I think very highly of what he brings to the table in the ring and his unique background. Power lifter, amateur wrestler. Hillbilly Tilly is a great supporter of ours. I really enjoy what he has done from afar building that company. So they've got some great other talents in there, and I like to see them continue to shine. So I just want to say, whatever those guys do, whatever everybody else does, we're happy, and we're happy that you guys have found what you want to do in the SWF. And that's why we're so honored that we're going to get the opportunity to induct you guys in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame alongside your old colleague and friend, James Taylor, the Nemesis. It's certainly, maybe one day we'll have a reunion of some Hall of Famers live on the air. And would love to see you and the Nemesis and everybody else. Certainly, obviously we're here after the big game on Sunday. So if you're welcome out there, in fact, if you're in Alabama and you work for AWL, you're welcome to say hello to James Taylor. You guys are welcome to say hello to James Taylor. Everybody's welcome to say hello to James Taylor because we are so happy James Taylor is coming back home on Sportswire Radio. We're happy that he is going to be in our Hall of Fame. And I see you yawning. Let's get to closing thoughts. The Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson, bulldoze with those closing thoughts. And boy, this was a lot of fun. I can't wait in a few weeks to induct you guys in the Hall of Fame. Floor is yours. Fire away.
Oh man, just if you got dreams, man, follow them.
Absolutely.
Go after your dreams, man. Don't let somebody tell you your dreams too big. Don't let somebody tell you your dreams too small. If you have a dream, go for it.
Okay. And we can follow you on a number of platforms: Twitch, Instagram, Armageddon with a D _ Shane Davidson, Facebook at Shane Davidson. Alan Worthy, I hope that you were worthy enough for us here on Sportswire Radio. I give you the floor. I give you some closing thoughts. I know you'll stay trendy with us here with that, and I can't wait to have you guys on here in a couple weeks. Maybe I would say, I don't know, how's 3 weeks sound from today? Maybe 3 weeks from today on the 26th of February. I don't think I'm doing anything at 11 o'clock, and if you guys want to be inducted then, that sounds like a good day for me. But until then, let's see what your yes, sir.
The 26th, it'll have to be after the 27th.
Okay, let's do it then maybe on an evening, let's say toward the 28th. How's the 28th? Actually, 29th. Let's do the 29th.
Let's do the 29th. That'll work.
29th. Stay trendy with us, Alan Worthy, and give us your closing thoughts.
Gotcha. Closing thoughts. Just continue to stay safe out there. Work your ass off, train hard, make connections. Where's Jules at, man? Where did she go, man?
She left.
Where did? Oh man, dude.
Why, you were thinking maybe you have a chance to get her number?
Nah,
why not?
Around.
Pretty woman,
Nah,
but there's a lot of people been inside. Hillbilly Tilly, by the way, said he loves the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame so far. And our slogan, yes, all wrestling matters. I know you guys are going to the Indies, but we still love the yard here on Sportswire. We still love the underground, and I love Hillbilly Tilly. You know what? Maybe Hillbilly Tilly, I'm going to induct you in the Hall of Fame. So we like to have a general manager, but yeah, Jules. Maybe Jules will come on when you guys get inducted in a couple weeks. Maybe Jules. Maybe she'll show her jewels. I don't know. That was funny. That
was good right there, Tom.
I try. I'm working on stand-up comedy because I know you're a host of Staying Trendy, and I got to certainly try to keep up with you.
Man, I actually tried my little hand at stand-up. I was actually thinking about doing stand-up for a while, but decided not to.
I have a friend of mine, Steve. I can say this now. A buddy of mine, Steve Saperstein, who ran for public office here in New York City. He was actually a stand-up comic for a brief period. He actually did the stand-up comedy, and it was like he showed me like some of the work, and I was like, "Really, you did that?" I was like, "You were more funnier than when you were a candidate. We were basically trying to get you elected." I think he was more funnier then. But yeah, stand-up comedy is a lot harder than it seems. It's a lot harder than it seems. But I might have a chance at it because people would want to laugh at me and make fun of me naturally. So I might have a chance. You never know. But I'm glad you're not in stand-up comedy. I'm glad you're back in the ring. I'm glad we can follow you on Alan Mikaels on every platform possible. And anything else you'd like to say?
Man, that pretty much wraps it up. We had a great long talk, and it was a great time. I had a great time on here.
We're gonna do more of these because I think that these are a lot of fun, and I love talking about different things because you were certainly my wingman. By the way, you guys are gonna be on Twitch tomorrow from 9 o'clock your time to 1 o'clock in the morning. If you're on Twitch, go to Shane Davidson. It's going to be Shane and Alan are going to be playing their favorite games. Check them out. Follow them, especially on Twitch. And I agree with you, Hillbilly Tilly, and you might be in my Hall of Fame. And James Taylor's going to be here Sunday after the big Super Bowl. You can ask him that question then. But until then, if you're on sportswireradio.org, you're going back to your regular scheduled programming. If you're on every other platform, thank you for tuning in. I'll be back here at 11 o'clock Eastern time to induct Matthew Forsaken and Dark Chrono Hall of Fame because all wrestling matters. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling. Thank you so much. Thank you to our future Hall of Famers here. In 23 days from now, we'll be inducting our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Alan Worthy, and of course, the Southern Bulldozer, Shane Davidson. Good night, everybody.